So great to be with you. I'm in such a good mood to be with you. And I haven't done a live stream in a while because I was on the road. And now I'm back with you from the road. And it's so great to be in. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be with you, all of you out there. And we're going to have a fun show. We're doing a mega show today. Today's the mega show day. Not a small show, a mega show. And the reason I'm doing a mega show, and I think that that's what we're going to start doing on Sundays, is having really a big show where we really knock out a lot of the stuff that's happening here in the land of Israel. Let's start with just a little bit of news to understand what has been going on. And there was a rocket. There was on Shabbat, we had a siren alarm. It was like 6:45 in the morning. And not only will these Houthis go to hell for trying to attack the Jewish people, which is against God's will and unjust, but also for waking us up early on Shabbat morning. That is just like an unrectifiable sin. So there was an alarm at 6:45 in the morning. I was still having jet lag. I got up, did the pajama show and tell in the building's safe room. Not exactly like the funnest look and feel. So, you're just there in pajamas in front of all your neighbors. I wasn't in the mood. I was very, very tired. Went back to sleep and then slept late, and that was very annoying. And I just got to synagogue on time, to shul on time, so to hear the Torah portion. But okay, that was on Shabbat. This morning, there was another rocket attack, but this one somehow passed through the Iron Dome and David Sling and all these things, and it almost hit one of the places that's the most beloved for Israelis, and that's the airport. Israelis love to travel, and the airport's a very important place. And so here is the landing of that rocket close to Ben Gurion Airport, and it's already sent reverberations through the system. There are now flights starting to be canceled, and with the news that Israel is going to be fighting again in Gaza, or widening out the offensive, together with the rocket that almost hit the airport, some airlines are starting that whole process of cancellation again. Let's take a look at that rocket that landed next to Ben Gurion Airport.
Whoa! 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 Whoa, it's a boom! Whoa! Yo! 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 Yo!
Clearly, this man was totally shocked by the fact that a big rocket landed pretty close to him and pretty close to the airport, which is shocking to us here in Israel, because that means that the airport is not as secure and that the various response technologies didn't work really in the situation. So that was a major landing in Israel, and it definitely scared that dude. And I had a friend in the airport. He told me the boom was massive. The walls shook. So, never discount the bad guys. Never discount the bad guys. The bad guys are serious, and they know what they're doing. And so we have to take them seriously, and we have to make sure to defeat them before they can shoot any more rockets at us. And you wonder sometimes, like, if the Trump administration said that the doors of hell would open up on Gaza, but the doors there have not been opened up, and the only reason you could explain that away is by saying there's hostages there. Well, there's no hostages in Yemen, and these guys are not just threatening Israel, they're threatening the whole global trade. So it's just not understandable why America, Israel, and really a consortium of other countries are not taking care of this thing, and they're letting these really bad guys who are starving their own people, who are slowing international trade, and who are attacking the Jewish people in Israel, an American ally. and even choking the trade through the Suez Canal and thereby starving out Egypt as well. One really just wonders, how is it that the world, the so-called world, is so willing to let this go on? So that was what happened today, and it was a major attack. And for Israelis who understand the airport to be kind of inviolable, unassailable, right? It's this like holy place. I have a joke that I call the airport the Holy of Holies, because Israelis love the airport. They love to fly in as well, but they love to fly out. And so, that is supposed to be this thing which is massively protected, and yet it was struck today. Okay. I don't know if you know, but I just returned from a long trip in Washington. Washington, D.C. was the last stop on the trip, but it was a trip together with Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir. And it was a great trip, and we had a lot of fun. And I just wanted to show you some of the videos that I took in Washington, D.C. Along the way. And it was an amazing trip because we went to special places, famous places. We went to Mar-a-Lago. He spoke there. I translated. We spoke at Yale. We spoke at the 5 towns. And then our last day was in D.C. And it was very special. Here's some videos that I took in D.C. that remind me of that great trip that just happened last week. But it was a special trip. And here you'll get a little bit of inside views. Right, in the train, the subway between the Rayburn building and the Capitol. The Jewish people are getting represented by Minister Ben-Gvir, who is here on the train talking with congressmen. And what's the point? The point is to have a stronger Israel, a more powerful Israel that fights back its enemies, pushes back on the bad guys, and becomes what it's supposed to be, which is a light onto the nations in Jerusalem, the spiritual capital of the world. Okay, so that was a little bit of fun. You know what that subway was? You either know it or don't know it. That's the subway between some of the buildings on the House side and the Capitol. I was going from Rayburn, but there's the Cannon building, the Rayburn building. They have a little subway that sends you right to the Capitol, and it's got a little booth just for members. And the minister sat down in the members booth because he just didn't understand. It just said members only. But he's not an American. He didn't know what that meant. So he sat down there. So we had to get him off that out of there, even though he himself is a member of the Israeli Inner Cabinet, the War Cabinet, and also a member of the Israeli Parliament. Okay, so that was one video. Let's see another one. And so we're in Congress right now, and Code Pink and CARE are yelling at Minister Ben-Gvir, and I'm watching this right now. The liars and the jihadists and the Qatari and Iraqi paid haters, they're out here making trouble, and Minister Ben-Gvir is laying out a policy of Jewish strength in the land of Israel. There's that Code Pink lady. I always wanted to meet her. Well, there she is, making trouble here in Congress. I'm just like super impressed with myself that I was able to knock out that video in real time. That's pretty cool. That is a pretty cool thing to be able to knock out a video like that. That's pretty special. And here's my a third video for you from DC. Let's see. All right, behind me is Minister Ben-Gvir. We're in Washington, and we just had meetings with the great congressmen who support Israel and are against terrorism. And let's push back on those leaders around the world who want to support the terrorists, want to fund them, want to make continuous, endless war in the Middle East. What we have to do is we got to fight the bad guys and stop funding them. And we got to stop believing their fake ties. Underneath that tie is jihadism. And so therefore, let's open our eyes, see the bad guys for what they are. And jihadism, it covers up the light of Israel. The real light of Jerusalem wants to come out to the world and be a way for people around the world to connect to God, to come up to that holy city. It's not going to happen if jihadism rules. So let's push back on jihadism, stop funding them, stop believing their fraudulent ties and their fake appearance. They hate God, they hate good, and we love God and we love good, and you're a part of it wherever you are. Yishai Fleischer here in Washington saying you shalom
on the way to the Holy Land. Blessings.
Okay, and so I was making those videos while the minister was making serious meetings. I was translating. I actually booked a lot of those meetings, and so there was a lot of action and a very special time to bring a minister who represents strong Israel, strong pushback on the jihad, more weapons in the hands of civilians, more sovereignty for the Jewish people in Judea and Samaria and Gaza. And he was very much promoting the Trump plan for Gaza and the emigration that would be done not forcibly, but voluntary immigration of Gazans and Arabs in Judea and Samaria to other countries and other places. And he said many times, and I think correctly, that this discussion about helping Arabs migrate out was totally taboo years ago, and now it's acceptable. And now the president of the United States is talking about it. And so that was very important to get in there and to talk in Congress about pushing forward the Trump plan. Here comes an Israeli minister, and he's saying, I am trying to push the Trump plan, and I'm trying to push it forward. So that was what happened in Washington, and it was special for me to be able to bring a man like that to the American Capitol to talk about ideas that will strengthen Israel and America, to push back on progressivism, to push back on jihadism, and to bring God into the picture, and to bring the God of Israel into the picture, and the strength of Israel into the picture. You know, I say this all the time: the strength of Israel, when Israel is strong, it's a blessing for the world. It pushes back on bad guys, and the light of Jerusalem comes out. The light of God comes out. That's what we have to strive for: a big Israel, a strong Israel. I'd love to hear from you, and we have a long show coming up, so we are far from. Don't be rushed. We got a big show coming up today. Got a lot of guests, a lot of videos, and I'd love to hear from you as well. And the way to hear from you, the best way, is a way that I get to hear from you, and you get to support the show through super chats. Super chats. Let's do super chats. Let's be super about it and chatty about it. And it's a great way to support the programming and to send your blessings to the land of Israel. Speaking of the land of Israel, we had another thing that happened here. And you know what? I don't think I prepared that video. Oh man, there's such an important little video. Hold on one second. Let me see if I could call up this video, because Israel was celebrating this week a very important holiday, and that is the holiday of Israeli independence. Israeli independence was celebrated, and how many years since the rebirth of the Israeli Empire, the Israeli Commonwealth? 77 years. 77 years. Hold on one second. Here's the video. Let me just save this as Yishai. On how do we say Independence Day? We call it Yom Ha'atzmaut, the Day of Independence. Of course, when we say independence, we don't mean independence totally, because we're always dependent on Hashem, because we're always with Hashem. And so therefore we're not totally independent. We're not trying to become self-reliant. No, we're trying to be with God. And this year, 77 is in Israeli Hebrew numerology, because letters conform to numbers, conform to letters conform to numbers. 77 stands for Oz. Oz. Strength, boldness. Hashem Oz lamoiten. Hashem will give his nation strength and boldness. Hashem yivarech damo b'shalom. Hashem will bless his nation with peace. And that verse from the Psalms is very famous because it lays out the formula. You want peace for Israel? It's got to come through Oz, through Jewish strength. That's the only way. Let's take a look at the little video that I shot there. Here in Gush Etzion, celebrating 77 years together with my town here. Let's take a look. Celebrating 77 years of return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel and the rebirth of the state of Israel. Third Commonwealth, baby. Third Commonwealth. We're back. Look at the youth. Look at the energy. You can't stop this because God wills it. And we're back in this good land. And we had a tough year. We had arson, forest fires. We have so much hate that surrounds us. We got love and light coming out. Oh, Davinu Chai, our father's still alive. Am Yisrael's still alive. Not only that, this is the greatest time in Jewish history in 2,000 years. We've been waiting for this time for 2,000 years. And nothing's going to stop it because God wills it. Happy Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel Independence Day, 77, going strong. Third Commonwealth. The reason I harp on this Third Commonwealth thing, and I think that one of the big mistakes that Israel has made in terms of its so-called hasbara, in terms of the way that it explains itself, is that it has not made the claim with clarity that this is the Third Commonwealth. You've got to say that over and over again. This is the time of the Third Commonwealth. You've got to say that because the Third Commonwealth, when you say that, you are making it clear that we are a nation reborn in this land and that we are indeed indigenous to this land. We're from this land. And this is by no way something that the UN granted us and that was born in 1948. None of that. We're an ancient people on an ancient land. Many times when I give speeches, I pick out people in the room. I'm like, who here is part of an ancient civilization? And in the room, there are people who will, there are sometimes they are Chinese, Persians, Indians. By the way, even other people like Irish are part of ancient civilizations. And what we say is, what I say to them is, we Jewish people are part of an ancient civilization. And when you repeat that, people understand that you're really from this land and not any other way around. It's so important to be able to say that to people so that they don't fall for the lie that Israel is somehow born in 1948. Israel was not born in 1948. It was reborn as a sovereign nation on its land in part of the Third Commonwealth. So let's just learn two phrases that I think are absolutely key for us to just say over and over again. Israel, the Third Commonwealth. Just say that. Third Commonwealth. Just say that. Just say Israel, the Third Commonwealth. Yeah, I love Israel, the Third Commonwealth. Or I love the Third Commonwealth of Israel. The third sovereignty, the third independence, the third independent state of Israel. It's important to say that because when you say that, it just clarifies that we're an ancient people. The other thing that I say, which I think is very strong, is you can't stop it because God wills it. I want to make that into a shirt. If you think that I should make that into a shirt or a cup, please write me an email, yishai@yishaifleischer.com. If you say, yes, Yishai, I want that as a shirt, I want that as a cup, you can't stop it. You can't stop this because God wills it. I also have another version, which is you can't stop it because Allah wills it. I tell that to the Arabs. You can't stop it because Allah wills it. And that's really something that I believe in. So we heard a little bit about my trip with Minister Ben-Gvir, the 77th year of Israel's independence with the call sign Oz. Hashem Oz le'moiten, Hashem yivarech damo v'shalom. By the way, Oz is not, it's spelled in English O-Z, but in Hebrew it has a guttural Ayin. Ayin is in the throat. You say Ayin, Ayin. You don't say Ayin. Ayin, you say, that's like Aleph. Aleph is in the front of the mouth, but Ayin is more in the back of the throat. Ayin. And we are Oz. Hashem Oz le'moiten. Hashem gives his nation strength. Hashem yivarech damo v'shalom. And lastly, I want to talk about this necklace. See my dog tags? You know what it says? It says on it? It says in Hebrew. It says, Am Yisrael Chai on this side. On the other side, it says, Todah Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. And I was in the 5 towns, and I was hanging out with the folks that came up with the Thank you, Hashem slogan. And they even have a song, la 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 la, I thank you, Hashem. And this song has spread out through the whole entire Jewish world. Thank you, Hashem. And that's exactly what we have to do when we have 77 years of Jewish independence in the land of Israel. We have to thank Hashem. We have to thank Hashem. And I'm thanking Hashem right now for being with you live and connecting with you all around the world. I want to thank Yo for being with me as the co-pilot here, navigating through this live stream. And today is a live stream that's going long. We're going long today with a lot of guests, a lot of people. Now, one of the things that's happening today, especially today, is elections for the World Zionist Organization, the WZO. And the people that can vote are people that don't live in the land of Israel, people who didn't vote for the Knesset. And those people have a chance to effectuate Israeli policy and the Israeli future. This is like the parliament for international lovers of Israel and Jews. And to help us understand a little bit about the WZO elections, why they're important, and why today being the last day of those votes and elections, why today you got to go vote, you got to spend a little bit of money, not a lot, and you're voting for the Jewish future, why it's important. To help us understand that, we have my friend, Rabbi Tully Weiss from Israel 365. Rabbi Tully, are you there? Welcome to the program.
I'm here. Thank you so much.
Good to have you. Okay. First thing, before we even go on, I want to make a quick banner here. What's the website I should send people to vote today?
Israel365action.com.
Israel365 action.com. Okay. Here we go. Let's put that up there. Did I spell this right? Does that look good to you?
That's great. Perfect.
Okay. So tell me what these, let's do it tight. Let's do it strong. Tell me, what is the WZO elections? Who's running? Who should we vote for?
Every 5 years, there's elections in the Jewish people, and it's the World Zionist Organization or the World Zionist Congress. And it goes all the way back to the very beginning of the Zionist movement, to Theodor Herzl. He set this up in his wisdom, almost prophetically. He established the Congress in Basel, Switzerland, in 1896. And he said that in 50 years, there's going to be a Jewish state. 52 years later, there was a Jewish state. He set up these institutions, and one of them is called Karen Kayemet L'Yisrael, Kakal. And that was going to be the institution to purchase the land. He set up another institution called the Jewish Agency, which their job was to facilitate Aliyah. And so those two have been doing an incredible job over the last 129 years till this very day. You have the World Zionist Organization, still one of the most important Jewish organizations. And they have this election every 5 years, which is the most important election that no one has ever heard of until now, that it's super competitive. And we just got an email. Over 200,000 people have cast their vote. Wow. 15,000 people voted on Friday. Today is the last day. And so I would imagine 20,000 people are going to vote just today alone.
Okay, so tell me who is running on this in this election. What's the deal?
There's 22 parties that are running.
22 parties.
22 parties. 9 brand new parties. Okay. And 14 from last year. One of them didn't cross the threshold again. So there's 22 parties, 9 brand new ones. About half are left wing and liberal, half are center right. So there's now a number of ultra-Orthodox parties that are running.
Wait, what does that mean? What does it mean for the average person? What does that mean, left and right? What do you mean by that?
So if you look at the slate book, where all of the 22 parties have their platform, so some of them are proudly advocating for a 2-state solution right now.
Boo! What do you mean? You mean take the land of Israel, cut it, this tiny little country, cut it down the middle, give the high land and the Holy Land to the enemies of Israel, shrink Israel even more, and then endanger it like we did with the Gaza disengagement? You mean like hand over our land to our enemies? Tully, that's just plain dumb. Why would we do that?
That's a great question. You would know better than I do, but half of the parties in the American Jewish Zionist movement are pushing for our enemies to have a state. our party, Israel 365 Action, and if you look at our website, you'll see that the banner headline is Stop the Two-State Solution, Stop a Palestinian State. That is the number one issue that we're leading with, and we are looking to do anything that we can to galvanize the American Jewish community who recognizes that October 7th was the nail in the coffin of the two-state delusion.
Are only Jews allowed to vote? A lot of non-Jews watch my content. Like, are they also allowed to vote in this election, or what? Lovers of Israel, haters of Israel?
Great question. So, no, they're not. But Israel 365 is all about strengthening relationships between Jews and Christians. It's also a big part of our party's platform. And what we really want to do is to recognize that so many supporters of Israel today are non-Jewish. When Herzl started the World Zionist Congress, so at the first Congress, there was 200 Jewish delegates and 10 Christian Zionist delegates. However, one of the greatest miracles of Zionism is that today, if you would have an honest Congress, you would probably have the opposite. You would have something like in the world today, there's maybe 10 million Zionist Jews outside of the land of Israel, but there's well over 200 million non-Jews who love Israel.
Right.
And that is incredible. And I think one of the greatest proof of the success of Zionism is the fact that it has moved so far beyond being a Jewish initiative. And we have a way that non-Jews and all of your Christian listeners to the podcast, to on YouTube.
They're all kinds. It's not just Christian. They're Muslims. They're Gentiles of all kinds. I got all kinds out here. The world is like full of people. It's but yeah, the Christians is one kind, but there are folks from all around the world. But in this, wait, do people just in America get to vote, or what if you live in the UK, India, New Zealand, Canada?
This is the American election. So all of those other countries do have another way of participating, but this election that ends today is just the American Zionist movement's election. But non-Jews have a role to play. And at Israel365action.com, if you go visit our website, and if you're not Jewish, you can visit, there's a tab there that says 10 from the nations. And what we've done is allowed our non-Jewish friends who want to support Judea and Samaria and who want to stop the two-state solution, there's a way that they can also sign up and to get their Jewish friends to vote. Everyone has Jewish friends, and it's very special, actually. You have non-Jews calling their Jewish friends and saying, you need to do something special for your people and for your land.
How much does it cost to vote for the WZO?
The election costs $5. It's a bit of a process, so it takes around 5 minutes. And so just know you'll need your credit card, you'll need your address, your mailing address, and you have to fill out some information. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of security on the system, so there's been all kinds of shenanigans. But we're keeping it clean and we're being honest. And we wrote, we only want Jews to vote. We want our non-Jewish friends to get their Jewish friends to vote. But God willing, we'll get into this Congress and we're going to really fight for Judea and Samaria alongside with your efforts, Yishai. And we were just together in Hebron last week. I hope that our success in the election will allow us to bring many, many more busloads of tourists into Hebron and into all of the areas of Yehuda v'Shomron. And we feel that, we didn't really know what this process was like when we got started. But now, the more that we learn, the good, bad, and ugly, the more we realize how important it is to bring a new generation of bold Zionist leaders to, especially after October 7th, who are going to just bring fresh ideas and fresh perspective, clean things up over at the World Zionist Organization in a way that, after October 7th, there needs to be new leadership at all levels. And that's what we're looking to accomplish. This for us is really only step one.
And how much money is involved in these elections? Like how much money do the people that get elected, how much do they control?
Right. So that's a great question. And it goes back to, Theodore Herzl. So they set up Kakal. Everybody got one of those blue and white boxes. Everyone went home and put their rubles and their shekels and their pennies into those blue and white boxes. They sent those blue and white boxes, or they sent the money to Jerusalem, and they bought land. And they bought the cheapest land in the world. Remember, in the early 1900s, we're talking about swampland, absentee, Bedouin, Turkish landowners. And it was really some of the most inexpensive real estate on the planet. But as we know, because of God's blessing of our efforts in those subsequent decades, that has become the most expensive real estate in the whole world. So they're sitting on literally trillions of dollars of real estate. And what they do is every time somebody buys a home in Israel, a part of those proceeds goes to Kakal, okay? And they get to decide where to build new communities. And they're sitting on 13% of the real estate in Israel, and about half of the inhabited land of Israel is owned by Kakal. So
Wow.
the area of the Knesset owned by Kakal. All of Rehavia in Jerusalem, the most expensive real estate in the world, where Jews would love to own homes and apartments, that's owned by Kakal. And so they're sitting on a lot of wealth, and they allocate $1 billion per year towards Jewish education and Zionism and programming, all of this shlichim that go around the world to spread Zionism through the federation system. All of that is paid for by the real estate proceeds. And $1 billion is allocated for all of these different activities. And historically, it's been controlled by the left. And we are looking to join with the other parties and take more of those allocations towards the right. So, for example, I'll give you a real world example. If you were to go to, driving from the airport to Jerusalem, both sides of the street are lush green forests that were planted over the years by Kakal. Then you drive to Yishai, where you live, into Efrat, and all of a sudden things get very brown and barren. What's that all about? They made a strategic decision not to plant cacao forests in Judea and Samaria. And that was a decision not that people don't even know that it was actually made. And therefore, it sort of just feels that this is area that we don't really live in and we don't really care that much about. And they've created these facts on the ground to enable a Palestinian state. And that's why what we're doing is really important. We need to reverse those facts on the ground. If for 125 years we've only planted trees to the west of the Green Line, now we need to start planting trees exclusively to the east of the Green Line.
Let's take a look at a video right now of what happens when jihadist arsonists light fire to those forests that have been planted 100 years ago and are trying to burn down Jewish communities around the Jerusalem area. Let's take a look at a video to show us a picture of that. Okay, we're seeing here an Air Force airplane flying over the fires and dropping some flame retardant stuff right over the flames. This was released. This is a Hercules C-130 flying over the affected areas. There you see it. Communities are in danger, and it's basically been proven unequivocally that we're dealing with arsonists, jihadist arsonists, who wait for the right conditions to light fires and to burn down Jewish communities. It's a very effective form of terrorism. You just go into a forest, light a fire, boom, and you're threatening the lives and the welfare of thousands of people. So that is definitely something that needs to be fought, so that we don't have a whole state, God forbid, in our land that will be just an arsonist jihadist state. We can't have that. Okay, so Rabbi Tully Weiss, go ahead.
You mentioned something really important, that the news, the daily news is directly related to the situation that was established by the World Zionist Organization, because all of the fires actually happened in sort of this Israel proper. None of the fires that were lit were started in Yehuda V'Shomron. And so, the facts on the ground that were established by the World Zionist Organization and Kakal are really playing themselves out during this major fire, this major disaster this past week. But in today's news, we all are aware of the fact that really for the first time, Ben Gurion Airport was hit by a missile from Yemen.
Right.
and a horrific escalation that really threatens, God forbid, if it would have hit the airport itself.
You want to see that video? Let's see that video. Check this out.
Whoa! 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 Whoa, it's a boom! Whoa! Yo! 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 Yo!
That dude getting close to being hit.
A rocket from 900 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
Do you imagine anyone who has been in the hills of Samaria, right? At Piduel, or they call it the Israel Overlook or Trump's balcony, but you're literally overlooking the airport, and it's Israel's thinnest point at that spot, 9 miles from Samaria, right? Which many in the American Jewish community want to give to the Palestinians. We're talking about less than 9 miles to the ocean. Ben Gurion Airport is literally a stone's throw away. And so whereas this nightmare of a missile from Yemen hit the airport today, God forbid a Palestinian state would allow and would enable rocket attacks onto the airport on a daily basis. This is no joke.
That's right. Folks, you are welcome to go, and I urge you to go right now. You can check out, if you want more information, it's at azm.org/elections if you want to understand everything about it. And the party that I recommend you voting for, the way to get to it is Israel365action.com. And here's the deal. It takes $5 and 5 minutes. $5 and 5 minutes, but the last day is today. So there you go. Like, if you want to affect change, if you want to vote for Israel, if you want to be part of the story of building Israel, and you're living who knows where, but you want to take a little step to make a difference, it's easy. So Israel365action.com, 5 minutes, $5. You're going to make a difference for 5 years, 50 years, and $5 billion. So you're going to have a tremendous effect on the future. Rabbi Tully Weiss, thank you so much.
Thank you. And I really appreciate this. I know that there's no audience that is more concerned and connected to Judea and Samaria than your audience, Yishai, because on a daily basis, you are putting out content. You're letting people know what's going on in Judea and Samaria. I identified this issue as being important really since October 7th, but you've been out there on the forefronts for years and years and years, and so has your audience. And guys, this is, you're all over the world and you're feeling like, what could I do to help? This is what you could do to help. If you are, with us here in our mission to support Judea and Samaria and to stop the Palestinian state, take a minute and go to Israel365action.com and please vote for us in the World Zionist Congress election that ends in just a few hours from now.
Rabbi Tully Weiss, thank you so much for all the good work that you're doing, and Israel 365 Action. Kol hakavod.
Thank you.
All right, we continue with our efforts here to teach about the rebirth of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. And we have a lot more guests, but definitely take Rabbi Tully's words seriously because this is a great moment to awaken the love and the passion and do something about it. So Israel365action.com. Very good. Now, we have guests coming up, but before we do, let's take a look at some of our fun videos. Here's a video of my son, Elazar Menachem, running, and the thoughts that he has during a run on Israel Memorial Day, that he's running for the memory of fallen soldiers. Let's take a listen to what a 13-year-old boy thinks here in the land of Israel.
You're running in Efrat, Gush Etzion. It's not a beautiful day outside. It's really not. It's fires. It's Yom Zikaron. It's tough. And then we're running right now. The Zecher and the memory of our fallen soldiers and brothers. And, it's not so easy to run in these conditions. But I think this is proof. We'll always be there. The jihad and all the haters of Israel will never get rid of us. We're always going to be here. Might be snowing, raining, hot, fire, ice, doesn't matter. We'll always be here. Keep on running, keep on going, keep on pushing. I'm Israel Chai.
I think I mean, you know, I guess he follows after his mother. He's a good talker, you know. But those are some of the thoughts of a young man running for the memory of fallen soldiers here in the land of Israel on Israel Memorial Day. You know, that day I actually got a chance to tour pastors. And I said to them, I was talking about Israel, but I said, but can I just talk about in parentheses? I said to them, let me just say something in parentheses. I said, America does a lot of things right. And there's a lot of things that Israel can learn from America. A lot. Governance and separation of separation of powers. That's something that is an amazing system that America has. And geographic representation, which we don't have. There's many things that America does so well. There's one thing that America doesn't do well that could learn from Israel, and that is Memorial Day. Memorial Day should not be a day of sales. It shouldn't be like, oh, Memorial Day mattress sale. No. Memorial Day is the day that you close the stores. You turn off the shopping instinct. You close the stores down. You say, this is the one day a year where we remember the people that fell for the sacrifice that they gave, all for that we can have this freedom, that we can live in this country, that we cannot have bad guys control us. And so the least that we could do is that we have one day where we stop, we take a name, we remember the sacrifice, we remember Iwo Jima and the liberation of Auschwitz, we remember World War II and that greatest generation, we remember Korea and Vietnam, and all the various wars that the U.S. has fought. That's what you guys should be doing. Your kids, your young people should see that you honor the people that sacrificed everything on Memorial Day. That's what we do here in Israel. I told them, if I don't cry on Israel Memorial Day, it just didn't happen. Like, it's a mitzvah, it's a commandment to cry and remember the fallen on that holy day, Memorial Day, and America could remember. And then actually Michelle Bachmann said to me, that's the way it used to be when I was a kid. And I was pretty shocked that that had been forgotten. All right, let's take a look at some other videos. First thing, on Israel Independence Day, we had a very special lighting ceremony, which we have every year. We light these torches. And this year, a very special man came and lit a torch, and his name is Ben Shapiro. Let's listen to why Ben Shapiro felt that he was called to light a torch on Israel Independence Day.
Very honored to be lighting the torch. I was asked to light the torch, I assume, because I've talked extensively since October 7th specifically about the necessity for what the IDF is doing, about the importance of the state of Israel, about the justice of the war and the way in which Israel is pursuing that war. All I do is talk for a living. I'm not doing the really hard work that so many people are doing on behalf of Western civilization. But my understanding is that's why I was selected. Whether you win the battle, whether you lose the battle, doesn't relieve you of the duty to engage in the battle. And so I can never guarantee victory. I think that the truth will win. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't do what I do for a living. But at the same time, I think that whether or not we win is irrelevant to the question of what we ought to fight for on a day-to-day basis. I'll say thank you to the people of Israel. They're standing in the breach. Western civilization is under attack. Israel is at the point of the spear of that attack. I think we all appreciate that. Am Yisrael Chai.
Beautiful words and beautiful humility from Ben Shapiro. I really appreciated those words. And he's right. We stand in the breach against jihadism and for liberty So I was very moved by that. I was very moved by my son's words. And there's so many good people and good energies out there. Speaking of good energy, we got to have energy out there. Come on, people. Let's go. Come on. Energy. Let's go. I want to hear some of your comments. Best way to have your comment read is by supporting the show also. And that's what we call super chats. You got to super chat it up. And it's a great way for me to read your comment. Here's greetings from Canada. God bless Israel. Yeah, Canada needs a little bit of our prayers because it looks like that country and many of those former British Commonwealth countries are going hard left in terms of their elections. So we're sending you blessings right back, Peter Wall. And also Islamists affect global warming says Yoav. What does he mean by that? I think he means the following. Let me get a video up here. Hold on one second. Let me see. There was, as you know, these fires that struck at Israel. Horrible fires. And these fires were the product of arsonists, terror, jihad arsonists. And there are some people who are saying, no, it wasn't arson. It was global warming. Global warming, that's who lit the fires. 5 fires on the same day. And it was because of global warming. And people say, yeah, it was just careless tourists flicking cigarettes. But check out this video here. Check out this video.
אנחנו בפארק קנדה. או תראו איך אנחנו בטוחים שזה הצתות. אין פה...
So the man says, this is a rapid rescue guy. He says, we're in Park Canada right now, which is one of the forested parks outside of Jerusalem, and says, this is how we know that this is arson and not just some random fires. Take a look.
שום דבר בוער מסביב. עצי זית. תסתכלו, מהגזע למעלה. הכל נקי. מהגזע הדליקו אותם. אוהב עליו. תראו.
He's showing that the fires originated inside the trunks, not in the leaves. It didn't catch on. It was somehow started inside of the trunks. And that's one. Here's another one. It's starting from the bottom to the top, which is not how forest fires rage. Here's another one.
למעלה הכל תקין, ולמטה הכל שרוף.
He says you could see that the trees are fine at the top, but they're being lit at the bottom, meaning to say this is a clear indication of arson. Arson, terror, arson. That's what happened. That's what happened on the celebration day of Israel Independence Day, was terror, arson. That's what we dealt with. And Yoav says it's exactly what I meant, my good man. And that's right. Yoav was talking about this this preponderance, this effort to blame global warming or blame some kind of natural phenomenon. This was not natural phenomenon. This was jihadists identifying that it was a hot and windy day and using that moment to light fires and to have the winds blow the fires and get them out of control. So that's what happened. And Israel really had to work hard to put them out. Thank God we didn't have any major injuries. And by the way, I forgot to say this before when I showed the video of the attack on Ben Gurion, and also these forest fires. We were struck. We were almost struck at the airport. We were struck by the forest fires. But God protects the Jewish people. It could have been much, much worse. It could have been much, much worse. And in a natural situation, it would have been certainly worse. But Hashem, God, has protected the Jewish people. He even protected us on October the 7th. It could have been much worse. But Baruch Hashem, Hashem saved the Jewish people from our enemies, and we fight back. We fight back, and we don't let the bad guys take over. But we can't say that it's just about our strength or our luck. It's about providence. It's about Hashem. He protects us. All right, folks. So that's some of the videos about the fires that we faced. Let's watch a little bit of a longer video about the hostages. Here is the Tikva Forum's co-founder, Tzvi Kamor, who is a father. He lives in Kiryat Arba, which is where I work, Kiryat Arba and Hebron. And he's one of the fathers he's a father of a hostage. And here's his perspective on how Israel should deal with the hostage problem, and how we're going to get strength from the fallen. Here is Tzvi Kamor addressing the big JNS conference that took place last week when I was in Washington. There was a big conference in Jerusalem, and here is what Tzvi Kamor said.
Hello everyone, Shalom and Chodesh Tov. Thank you for having me. I am the father of Eitan, who is still being held captive by Hamas, and who, in less than a month, will celebrate his second birthday in captivity. Our days are very difficult as a hostage family, but we are strong and optimistic and praying for our son and for good days for the people of Israel. I didn't come this morning to ask for mercy, but to remind all of us who the people of Israel are. Let's start with my family. We live in Hebron, which is the second most important and holiest place for the Jewish people. Our fathers and mothers are buried in Hebron, and King David began his reign in Hebron 7 years before he was a king in Jerusalem. This place gives us a right and strength to deal with our terrible condition. Our son Eitan is our eldest of 8 children, 4 boys and 4 girls. On October 7, Eitan was a security guard at the Nova Festival, saving dozens of people from certain death until he was kidnapped at 12:30. The last thing we know Eitan did was take the body of a girl who had been raped and murdered and bury her in a nearby pit. This is Eitan's character: courage, determination, and concern for others. We know Eitan is alive, and we expect to see him soon, but we are still at war with an enemy who wants to destroy us. Eitan is a great-grandson of my grandparents, most of whom were in concentration camps and survived the Holocaust. Like the Bibas family, the Nazis murdered my grandfather's wife and 2 young children. After the Holocaust, he remarried my grandmother. My grandparents came from Hungary and Romania. My wife's grandparents came from Germany and Romania. How did they know to return to the land of Israel, a place they'd never been? The answer is written in our Bible, which we gave to all humanity. This is the source of our right of this land. Since the Romans expelled us from our land, we have not stopped davening and dreaming about our land. At least 3 times a day, we davened and asked God to bring us back here. At every Jewish wedding, we mention Jerusalem. And so far, hundreds of generations, the Jewish people have passed on the memory of this land, and especially the memory of our capital city, Jerusalem. For almost 4,000 years, they have tried to destroy us and have not succeeded. We do not exist because of history. We exist in spite of history. There is no horror in the world that we have not gone through. Through the Babylonians, the Crusades, the Inquisitions, and the Holocaust. Here we are, a strong and prosperous nation. This is one volume of the Talmud, printed in Berlin in 1862. And it is Holocaust survivor, more precisely, a Kristallnacht survivor. And it tells the story of us, of the Jewish people. Millions of us may be killed and burned, but the Jewish nation will remain forever. We are not a people that exist for his own sake. On the first day of our Jewish calendar, we daven for the benefit of all humanity. Even today, facing the new Nazis in Gaza, we are the messengers of humanity to destroy them. This war must end in such a way that Hamas is destroyed and surrender and all the hostages returned to us. The state of Israel cannot accept a situation where the hostages are back and Hamas returns to control the Gaza Strip. Therefore, we at the Tikva Forum will never call to end this war and surrender to Hamas. Never. Before the war, at our Shabbat table, my children asked me, "Daddy, what was a Shalit deal? What happened there?" And I told them. A discussion began between the children about whether to release terrorists or not. In the end, Eitan told us, "If I'm taken hostage during the reserve, I will not allow you to release me in exchange for terrorists." This is the education in our family. We know Eitan as a strong and optimistic guy, and we are confident that he will hold up and hope that very soon we will be able to hug him when he returns to us. Thank you for listening, and good news for all of us. Chodesh Tov.
As you could see, Tzvika Moore is praying for his son Eitan, but it's not through weakness, and it's not through giving away jihadists, terrorists, releasing them from our prisons so that they can terrorize our people. That is not the way forward. And Tzvika represents Jewish strength and the Jewish fight. And so I'm proud to know him, and I'm proud to also present to you a way that we should be looking at these things. Book Mouse says he is a lion. There you go. I guess the mouse would know what a lion is, and so that's very important. And I'm proud that we have people like that, because we hear a lot of times messages that the Jewish people should not stand up to Hamas and that we should succumb to their whims and give them what they want because there's no other way. That's what we hear all the time. Just give them what they want. We have to give up. We have to stop this war. We have to get everybody back no matter what. So that what? So that there'll be more attacks against us, more hostages taken. I get it. You're seeing the fate of your child or your friend. I get it. God forbid we should all never have to make those decisions. But when I was with Minister Ben-Gvir in America, people asked him about the hostages all the time and why he voted against the hostage deals. And he said, the people who really want the hostage deals are the parents of the hostages, of the captives. But we, the government, we are the parents of the whole nation, of the next generations, of the next children. We can't have them be murdered or taken captive by people that we've released. You can't release murderers back into society. That would just be unethical. And it can't be. Natalie says, we are all fighting the same people, from Israel to Sweden, but the left tries to cover it up. Indeed, that's what I was talking about with regarding to the arson terror. They're just trying to make it up now that it was not done by arson and jihadist arson. They're trying to say, no, it was just global warming. Global warming was there's a lot of jokes in Israel about can you arrest the global warming? And does global warming also throw rocks? All right. Dylan sends us his love and support with a super chat. He says, we Christians in Canada support Israel always. Dylan, thank you for your support. And you know what? Dylan, tell me, do you feel like Israel needs to support you right now? I mean, I feel like here in Israel, at least we know who the bad guys are. I mean, we have our strong Israeli cover-up left, but gosh, I don't know if I'd be comfortable in Canada these days. I just don't know. I mean, I visited years ago Carleton University and Concordia. And I'm like, oh my God, this place is a hotbed of jihadism and anti-Israelism. So I'm not sure. And that was like back then. Right now, forget about it. It's really out of control. All right. It's time for one of our beloved friends to join us. One and only global Israel activist and Israel fighter for Israel, Jake Bennett. Jake, shalom and welcome.
Shalom Yishai. Pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me.
All right. It's good to have you. I think your volume is a little bit high. If I could ask you do you have a way to lower it just a tad? Just a tad.
How's that?
Lower volume.
Oh, it's high. Lower volume.
Yeah,
Okay.
lower volume.
I'm not sure how this mic works, or if I just
No, I don't think you can do it on the mic. You have to do it on the.
How's that?
Okay, that's all right. First thing, we just got Tikva
right?
just sent us a super sticker. Thank you very much, Tikva, and thank you for your support. Tikva means hope. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate your blessings. Jake, so good to have you on the show today.
Good to be with you.
All right, let's watch some videos together and see what we can comment on. First thing, what do you want to watch right now? Do you want to watch? Hold on, I had something I wanted to watch with you. First thing, let's watch something good. Okay, you want to watch something good for a second?
Sounds good to me.
Let's watch this Israeli Arab music producer, Ali Shaban, talking to Arabs in Arabic with subtitles. Take a look at what he says.
ابن الجليل والكرمل ويافا والناصري أنا ابن الدول اللي اخترت أحبها إسرائيل لما قررت أيد دولتي علنا ما كانش قراري خيانة لهويتي كان ولاء لضميري لأني ببساطة سعيد هون في دولتي عايش بحرية بحكي شو بدي بعبد اللي بدي إياه بطمح بحلم وبحقق لما بطلع حوالي بشوفش احتلال مثل اللي عم بيصوروا لنا إياه بشوف وطن بشوف قانون بيحفظ حقي دولة بتحميني مجتمع بيتركني أكون شو ما بدي.
So you see the main points there are Israel is a country that affords me freedom. I don't see an occupation. I see a people in their land and a country that protects my rights, a state that defends me, a society that allows me to be whatever I want to be. This is something very unusual in the Arab world. They don't have this. So here he is saying, like, this is where I live. I get a chance to live in a place where I can express myself and do my thing.
لما بطلع على العالم العربي شو بشوف قمع بشوف فساد مجتمعات تقتل أبنائها باسم الشرف والدين والسياسة.
I see in the Arab world, I see oppression, corruption, societies that kill their own children in the name of honor, religion, politics. Like there's no freedom in the Arab world. And I get to live in Israel, to speak in Arabic, to be whatever religion I want to be. I live in a place of freedom.
شو العارف إني اخترت النور على الظلام؟ إني اخترت دولة بتحترمني بدل أوهام أمي ماشي لورا.
Look at this, Jake. Is there any shame in choosing a state that respects me over illusions of a nation marching backwards? These are powerful things, you know. Like if I say today, well, the Arab world is marching backwards and Israel is light and the Arab world is darkness, you know, people are going to get angry at you. But here's an Israeli Arab, clearly articulate dude, and he's like, I want to be part of a nation that's moving forward, not this backward stuff. Right.
In America, with identity politics, you're not even allowed to say these things unless you are an Arab. If you're an Arab, then you can say it. But even then, as we saw at the Oxford Union, you risk getting shouted down and told you're a racist. That happened to the son of Hamas.
Yosef Haddad. To the Green Prince, to Musab Hassan Yusuf.
Yeah, they accused him of anti-Arab racism for saying these exact things, and they called to throw him out. And then there were objections and whatnot, and they let him stay and finish. But you know, this is simple truth. And when you hear the other side all the time and they talk about oppression and they talk, you know, and you ask them, what is the oppression? What can the only example they can ever give is checkpoints. And the only reason there's checkpoints is because of terror attacks.
Yeah. Also checkpoints is something that we go through in the airport. Like, what's the big deal? Like, we all have to deal
Israelis
with.
go through checkpoints all the time because of Arab terror attacks. Jews go through them. Arabs go through them. Yeah. But this guy's speaking plain truth.
Let's keep listening to شبان علي شبان.
أنا مش هدف الصراع أنا هدف الحياة بسيطة هدف الحياة مش طالب غير إني أعيش بحرية وإني أربي أولادي على الأمل مش على الكراهية على البناء مش على الهدم ورسالتي بسيطة أنا مش مجبور أقرأ عشان أكون مناضل مش مضطر ألعن إسرائيل كل صباح عشان أكون عربي أصيل إذا كانت الحقيقة عم بتوجعكم فهي مشكلتكم مش مشكلتي. رسالتي بتحكي الحقيقة مثل ما هي. إني بخير هون بدولة إسرائيل، وإني بتمنى للعالم العربي كله يذوق هذا الخير قبل ما ينقرض الحب من قلوبنا. سلام.
Wow. Wow.
This is the kind of guy that we wish were the leaders of the Arabs, and yet instead, when a guy goes like this, says things like this publicly on social media, you know he's opened himself up to be a target. If someone identifies him, fingers him to the jihadists, I don't know where he lives, but if they finger him to the PA, the Palestinian Authority, he's going to be attacked.
I don't think he lives under the PA. I think he lives in the north of Israel, and he's an Israeli citizen, and he's got the protection. And I don't think he lives in that danger. The Arabs that live under the oppression of the Palestinian Authority, they have no protection. If I could ask you to lower your camera a little bit so I could have a little bit more of you. There you go. There you go. There you go. Naama says, this Arab Israeli man is so special, honest, articulate, and loving. His being an artist resonates too. His videos that I've seen are all outside on the land. He speaks with such strength. Very good. Now, Naam, wait. Let's put that post back up. Naama, I want to say something to you. Because I can see that you are strong and you are with us, I want to point out something. On your Facebook icon there, you have this yellow ribbon. It has been empirically found that Hamas promotes this yellow ribbon. It has been found in some of the people that they arrested that were working with Hamas, that Hamas wants to spread this consciousness. This yellow ribbon, which on the one hand means that we care about the hostages, also means do everything for the hostages, which is exactly what Hamas wants us to do. They want us to do everything, i.e. stop the war, make promises that we're not going to keep fighting, and they are behind this yellow ribbon. I'm going to say something that may be a little bit shocking. We Jewish people should not be wearing yellow things so much, like yellow stars and yellow ribbons. We really shouldn't. Yellow stars were the things that Jews wore in Muslim countries and in Christian countries to identify that they were Jews, that they were separate, that they were a lower class, that they were a Dehimi people, a ghetto people. I don't want to wear a yellow ribbon because the yellow ribbon signals to my enemies that they are the bosses. I don't want to give them that signal. I understand we should care about the hostages. I get it. We should fight for the hostages. But you got to remember that the hostages narrative is exactly what Hamas wants. They want us to make this whole thing first and foremost about today's hostages, not about tomorrow's hostages, not about controlling Gaza again, not about destroying the jihad. They want us to be totally focused that we do everything, i.e. stop the war and let them win. That was their tactic from day one. And therefore, I recommend to you, I know. It sounds painful, but I say, don't wear that yellow ribbon. Don't do it because you're actually signaling to them that they're winning. Instead, find some other way to say it. Put a number of how many days we're waiting. We haven't liberated the hostages yet, and you could do that. But I recommend not to wear that yellow ribbon. What do you think, Jake?
Agreed. Yeah. I was just at a Yom HaZikaron memorial ceremony last week, and I did not wear the yellow ribbon, and I have not been wearing it for a long while because I see the whole focus on the hostages as being problematic in a number of ways. It downplays the need to destroy Hamas, and it becomes a kind of a victim story that we're just telling this victim story all the time. And this is something that we were talking about earlier. When it comes to Yom HaZikaron, I don't want it to be a victim story that we're victims of October 7th. I'd rather on that day that we do our best to remember the memories of take that out. The memories of the soldiers who have passed for their bravery and their strength and their resilience and for what they did. On October 7th, we suffered great losses, but on that same day, within 24 hours, we had special forces operators within an hour and a half, within 2 hours, on the ground, dropped off by helicopter, fighting house to house, killed 1,500 armed Hamas militants, captured another 500. So that's the story that that we're not telling the world because we think we're going to win some kind of sympathy by talking about our victimhood, but we should be winning instead people's respect by talking about the fact that we have the bravest soldiers. When they're shooting unarmed mothers and fathers and grandmothers and babies and raping, pillaging, mutilating, they're very successful at that. But when they're face to face with a Jew who's also armed, they're destroyed within a day. We destroyed an entire army of them in one day. That 1,500 killed, that's the story I want my kids to know. And that's the story that I want the world to know.
1,500 terrorists killed. Mm-hmm. By the way,
speaking, I want the world to know, don't do this again. Never again means if you do it again, you're going to be destroyed completely. And that's what I'm waiting for in Gaza. That's going to be victory when there's no longer any threat in Gaza and no Jewish kid in Israel, no little girl needs to worry about whether it's safe to go to sleep in her own bedroom at night.
Right.
That's victory. Not retrieving these hostages. They're kind of a, we care about them. We want them back. We want them saved, but they're kind of a sunk cost in the fact that they've already been captured. Maybe we can get them, maybe we can't, but we need to make Israel safe. And to do that, we need to destroy the threat from Gaza completely.
Let's watch a video of a very armed soldier. I want to show you what the soldier is armed with. Well, it's a beautiful video about a soldier who lost his arm in the battles of October the 7th, but was able to get a prosthetic and was able to. So now he's armed with a new arm and also armed with the power of Torah that he held up proudly and was able to come to the place of health and recuperation and able to lift up that Torah, the Sephardi Torah. That's a beautiful video.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It was a struggle. Those are heavy Torahs. It's a heavy case. It's a lot heavier than the Ashkenazi Torah, as the old joke goes. But he made it happen and he lifted it, and that was an inspiring video. Beautiful.
Okay, let's get together. One of the segments that you and I do together is called the Garbage Men, when we take out some of the media garbage that's out there. Here is a young lady who doubts Jewish indigeneity, and she takes Gal Gadot, the Israeli actress, to task. Let's see if we could take her back to task and throw out some of the garbage.
Gadot said she's an indigenous person of Israel. The same week that Israel has killed over 500 people, 200 of them children, in just 3 days, because Israel is a settler colony.
Wait. What does one thing have to do with another?
I don't know, but I just want to point out that if she's saying that 500 Gazans were killed, that's 500 descendants of colonizers. Number one. So she doesn't know who's who, and never believe Hamas numbers. Number two. Number three. Yeah, this lady. Every child that's killed is a tragedy, and every child that's killed is killed because Hamas puts them there. Because Hamas puts its army behind its children, underneath their apartment buildings, underneath their mosques and schools and hospitals. And if Israel wanted to strike Hamas the strongest way on day one with all of its bombs, if it didn't have anyone tying its hand behind its back, the way to know how to target Hamas on day one would have been to strike every UN building, every UNRWA building, mosque, school, and hospital in Gaza, because we know, and it's known, and it's been documented before and since, that those were Hamas headquarters. And to say to the world, we condemn Hamas for all the civilian non-combatant deaths that are happening right now because they're hiding behind them, but we're not going to let you hide behind them. Because in a war is war, and war is between two people. It's not like going after a criminal, not like going after a bank robber. War is between two peoples, and those people elected Hamas and supported Hamas. And this phony business that we've heard since October 7th, the old 9/11 refrain, oh, Gaza's not the enemy, Hamas is the enemy. Oh, it's Al-Qaeda that's the problem, not Afghanistan or whatnot. In the case of Gaza, Gaza's the problem. And we could have nailed Hamas hard on day one if we'd struck those places and made it very clear and spoke with perfect frankness about who the enemy is. And every UNRWA building and every UNRWA UN person who's been talking ever since October 7th, defending Hamas, condemning Israel, they're guilty, they're accomplices, they're mouthpieces for Hamas, and they should be afraid and they should be in hiding because we know who the enemy is, and Al Jazeera as well.
But I just didn't even understand her logic. So what if, let's say your numbers are right, which they aren't. What does that have to do with you're indigenous or not? You think indigenous people don't have enemies that they have to push back? What does that have to do with anything? It's they killed a lot of people. And you know why? Because they're settlers. What does that have to do with it? Maybe we kill a lot of people because there's a lot of bad guys trying to destroy us. What does that have to do with it? Like, what's the logical flow?
Murray has a great line that goes right to this. And he says, tell me what you accuse the Jews of, and I'll tell you what you're guilty of or what you think you're guilty of. And in the case of this woman and the milieu that she was raised in, they believe America is guilty of colonialism and genocide and all this, but it's just a few hundred years too late to condemn America. So they're looking for someone to unload their guilt on. And they say, they buy this story that Israel is the colonizer, non-indigenous, don't belong here. They dump it on Israel.
Very good. Let's keep going.
Someone needs to tell Gal Gadot, or should I say Gal Greenstein, because her parents only Hebraized their last name like a few years before she was born. She's Polish, Austrian, German, and Czech by her own admission. So Gal Greenstein, you and me, we're relatives from Eastern Europe, not Palestine. And you cannot be indigenous to a settler colony.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Let's get this straight.
Yeah. Let's
is that a sin to change your name to Hebraizing? I didn't think that was like a bad thing. I myself always wanted to Hebraize my name, but that's a separate topic. But they
call it, in fact, in their literature, that woman's literature, you know what they call that? They call that decolonization.
Right.
Decolonization, because you're returning to your indigenous roots. Why is Gal Gadot? Why was she Gal Greenstein? Because we got kicked out by Roman colonizers and our people got scattered. And yes, we had to go to this place and that place and we traveled, but we always remained Jews. We always remained indigenous to Israel. And many of us, more than half of us, have returned to there in the past century.
So being Gal Gadot is decolonialization.
Yeah. She should be applauding that. God bless you. She should be saying to Gal Gadot for embracing your indigenous heritage and your Jewish heritage and Hebraizing your name and rejecting that European Greenstein that you picked up somewhere in Europe. But
it's beautiful.
These are the narrative warfare.
And then also, what does it mean? It's a settler colony. A settler colony. What does that mean? You mean we've returned? And that's before you came on the show, Jake. I said that one of the things that Israel has missed in its quote unquote hasbara is that Israel should always call itself the Third Commonwealth. Like that should almost be like the thing that you don't. Sometimes you don't even have to say Israel. You could say Israel.
Clarity in 2 words, right there.
What's that?
Yes, it's clear. You're bringing clarity in 2 words. It's the Third Jewish Commonwealth.
The Third Commonwealth, but just say it like all the time. Be like, yeah, and the Third Commonwealth. Like it's Israel, the Jewish state, or the Third Commonwealth. Just use that term all the time. Make that term just the way we talk about Israel. That would help so much against all those people who think that Israel was born in 1948. You're a settler colony. Yeah, we've had 2 states here, and if anybody's a settler colony, it's the so-called Palestine that's trying to erase our identity. But the point is that frankly, I just feel that Israel has not used that terminology enough, and so she's able to do that.
And let's recap, because it's worth doing 1,000 times if it's worth doing once. Our friend Ryan Bellarose's 5 points of indigenous identity, which are ties to the land, the language that comes from the land, the culture, the spirituality, blood ties to the land, having your ethnogenesis on the land by all those metrics that are adopted by everyone in that field of colonization and indigeneity for every other people in the earth except for the Jews. By those metrics, we are the indigenous ones. And the Arabs who came from Arabia and colonized 6 million square miles of the Middle East and North Africa and brought their language and culture and religion and even bloodlines everywhere through conquest, they're the colonizers. It's really very simple. And the only way that you don't get it is if you deny Jewish identity and you deny history. And that's part of the game. And that's what's going on here. And by the way, she talks about, 200 children those all look like adult bodies and body bags, if they're even bodies. I've seen enough.
I don't even want to argue that. I don't want to argue like how many have been killed, how many have not been killed. Yeah. We're fighting a war. There are people going to die. You start a war with us. That's what happens. I don't know what the real numbers are, so I'm not going to argue that. But it's obvious that the use of the term children is in order to be an emotional trigger and to get us to stop the war against the jihad. And it's basically another way. It's this article that she has behind her is just another way. By the way, it's by Al Jazeera, a Qatari mouthpiece.
Yes.
It's just another way to hide behind civilians. If it's true or it's not true, they're hiding behind civilians. Let's keep going with this person.
Because a settler colony, by definition, is not indigenous.
Wait, but you called it a settler colony, and now you're saying by the definition that I gave it, it's not indigenous? Okay.
Right, by the term that she misapplied, the Jews are not indigenous.
And Israel is a settler colony committing genocide. Gal, I'd like to read you a little from my book, Genocide Bad, novel concept, from a chapter talking about whether or not, Israeli Jews can be indigenous to Palestine. It comes from the 9th chapter of the book entitled Jews Are Entitled to Palestine, which looks at 4 different arguments for why Jews are supposedly entitled to Palestine. The first one being because the Bible said so. Spoiler alert, no, it doesn't. The second...
What do you mean it doesn't?
She's never read it. She doesn't believe in it. She thinks it's all a lie. It's not real history.
Wait a minute.
It was all written in the 7th century BCE by some of the... Moses didn't write it. He wasn't there. Everything's fake.
Yeah, but wait. But Moses didn't write it. Okay. But the Bible does say
Egypt, the whole story's a lie. God doesn't exist.
But
you're ruining Western civilization by bringing morality we don't like.
The Bible doesn't say that the land of Israel belongs to the Jewish people.
Oh yeah,
but it does over and over again. I mean, okay, you want to say the Bible's bogus? That's fine. That's your problem. But like, don't tell me what the Bible says. I mean, it's in the book. You can look it up on Wikipedia. You know,
it's even right there in the 10 Commandments. Honor your mother and father so that you will prosper and have long years on the land that Lord your God has given you. It's right in the 10 Commandments.
That's right.
And so many other places.
Part of the chapter is Jews are entitled to Palestine because international law says so. Spoiler alert. No, it doesn't.
What do you think about that, Jake?
Oh, yeah, of course it does. Of course it does. Except when you say we need to throw out international law and apply new laws because this is a great one. This is a great one because Jordan occupied Judea and Samaria in 1948 and kept it for 19 years. If the Jews take it back, now it's occupied territory and illegal occupation. And by that logic that we hear from the left and in the Ivy League schools, if Ukraine actually wins back Crimea and sends some Ukrainians, allows them to go live there, that's settler colonialism. And those are illegal settlers, those Ukrainians who go and live in Crimea. But international law, when it comes to the Jews, it gets thrown out the window, and it's all based on politics and wishful thinking and self-interest, not international law. She doesn't know anything about international law.
Right. I love these spoiler alerts. She's like, spoiler alert. I never read it. Let's keep going here.
The 4th part of the chapter is Jews are entitled to Palestine because some of them were born there, and you'll have to read the book to see what I have to say about that. The 3rd part of the chapter takes on the idea that Jews are...
Yeah, go ahead.
For a sec. Okay. This is coming from someone who's in the political camp that there should be no borders. People should be allowed to live wherever they want.
Right.
But not Jews. Spoiler alert, not Jews.
Okay.
Jews shouldn't be allowed to live in Israel.
Okay, but look, to be fair, she's talking about sovereignty, though. She's talking about why there should be a Jewish state, why people have a right to a Jewish state.
But she's talking about individuals when she talks about because they were born there. She's talking about individuals, and when they jump to talking about individuals from people who are coming from a camp,
right? Right, but I mean, I don't think anybody argues that Israel has a right to be Israel because Jews are born here. I don't think that that's a correct. I don't think that's a correct. No, I don't think anybody says.
No, you have from the Palestinians. Because you have from Mahmoud Abbas. You have. I mean, there was a speech he gave last week where he said when he has a Palestinian state, there will not be one Jew allowed in that state. And he's talking about even ones who were born here. It doesn't matter. And it's not just sovereignty. He's talking about kicking out individuals. He's talking about ethnic cleansing. And what she's promoting is ethnic cleansing of Jews, even though they're
wait, Jake, hold on. Right now we're dealing with her arguments.
Okay.
The first one, she said, was that the Bible does not say that the Jewish people have a right to land of Israel, but it does.
But it does.
And the second one is international law. She didn't mention the San Remo Accords, the mandate for Palestine under the League of Nations. And those laws do not grant Jewish rights in the land of Israel, but they recognize Jewish rights in the land of Israel. They recognize our indigeneity.
Yes.
Then she talked about something which I have never claimed is a rationale for rights, that Jews are born in the land of Israel. I don't think that that's a rationale for a state, just like there are Arabs born in this land, and I don't think that grants them necessarily status for as a country. They may have individual rights, but certainly not national rights. So I'm not sure what she's talking about.
I'm filling in context that she left out. I think that she's getting to this point. She's coming from conversations that I've seen on college campuses that Jews should be kicked out of Israel. Jews should be ethnically cleansed and kicked out of Israel because
no doubt she believes that.
Go back to Europe. She doesn't discuss or explain right there where she's coming from. So I was filling in the gaps that's where she was coming from.
No doubt that she believes that Jews should be ethnically. She believes in the destruction of Israel. Let's not mince words. But right now I'm just dealing with her particular arguments. Okay,
let's go back to Palestine because they are indigenous there, and let's just dive into what like history and research and the meanings of words has to say. And Gal, I would love to send you an early copy of this.
It's not Gal, it's Gal, but okay.
Book, have your publicist send me your mailing address and I'll get it right in the mail to you. So I grew up believing, and I think most Ashkenazi Jews believe this, that even though we were from Europe, at some point our people had migrated from Palestine. But then I read Shlomo Sand, and this idea that I grew up believing that I came from Palestine, that there was some mass exile of Jews from Canaan into Europe, is as bogus as the Exodus.
Why is it bogus? Because you read one well-known crackpot. That you read one guy who's made a career out of trying to erase the history of the Jewish people. Literally, his book is called like The Invention of Israel, The Invention of the Jewish People. Like you read one.
That's confirmation bias, and it was surprising there to learn that she's actually Jewish. I was very surprised to hear her claim that she comes from a Jewish family. But yeah, confirmation bias is when you want to believe that your people are wrong. You look for a crackpot. Doesn't matter that he has no expertise or to use that dirty word, expertise, that he has no, that he's completely wrong and can base it on nothing. Okay, she can say
you don't even have to say he's wrong. He's just one historian versus thousands of others. I'll give you so many history books. On my wall here. On my wall here, I have a National Geographic map of the temple and the history of the first temple, the second temple, and then the Islamic conquest on top of that. Like, this is National Geographic here, girl. So it's like, you want to take one guy who's a well-known crackpot.
The story of the Jewish people is so well documented. We've got 4,000 years of documentation from Abraham to the present, and from the Roman conquest of Jerusalem to the stories that we have that have been preserved of generation to generation of passing down of Jewish tradition and communities moving from place to place in Europe and being kicked out sometimes and moving for economic opportunity and other times. I mean, this is one of the most well documented stories of anthropology, of humankind, an ancient people that has actually had its story written down from generation to generation continuously. And the crackpot comes and says, oh, it's all a lie, and so is the Exodus. And I guess she's on social media, so she can get that heard by however many people hear
her. Okay, so basically, but on the other hand, let's give credit to this guy who has written a book that has undermined the story of the Jewish people, and this Jewish girl has succumbed to it. Now, maybe it's a confirmation bias, like you say, but it doesn't matter. Somebody's written a book. It has gotten into her hands. She's now written another book based on these ideas. And that just goes to show you how powerful the narrative war is. You could get a book into a young person's mind like this, and it'll erase their mind and erase 4,000 years of Jewish history. And she's lost, and she's become an enemy of the Jewish people.
Yeah. This is what we're dealing with every single day, and I see it in states around the U.S. and on campuses around the U.S. It doesn't matter what argument you bring. It doesn't matter what truth you bring, because all truth goes out the window. All facts go out the window. You cannot win. Israel's not going to win its war against the jihad in the court of public opinion because it's fighting truth against lies. And there are 7 different types of lies or 70 types of lies, depending on who's listening, who wants to hear what. I mean, we saw in the very 2 weeks after October 7th, you had spokesmen for Hamas on international television saying, yes, we did it. We did everything that we broadcast on Telegram, and we'll do it again 1,000 times until we've destroyed Israel. And at the same time, within 24 hours, you had other spokesmen out there saying, all of that story is lies. It's Zionist propaganda. The murders and the rapes didn't happen, and no babies were killed or beheaded or burnt. And all of that.
And that Israel bombed its own civilians. Israel bombed its own civilians, like the
Israel,
death.
right. It was the Hannibal, the Hannibal protocol. Israel is the one that killed its own people, and you heard that on Piers Morgan, and you heard him believing it. So it doesn't matter. You can't. The way to win this war is not through debate. It's destroy your enemy. Destroy your enemy, and then have all these academics have their conversations in their ivory towers, and it doesn't matter anymore because the threat is gone. The threat needs to be dealt with physically, and all of this gab, talk. It's not going to win.
I will throw out that there's another way to win this war. Okay, because together, I've come to the conclusion, we've discussed this, that legitimacy oftentimes equals security. If you're not legitimate, you have a hard time fighting. If you're legitimate, you have every right to fight as much as you want. And in order to get legitimacy, one of the main things you need to do is to speak in clarity. If you're speaking out of 2 sides of your mouth, if you send out a confusing signal, it's hard for you to fight. So you're saying destroy your enemies. And I'm saying say what you intend to do. I intend to destroy my enemies. I intend to take over Gaza and liberate it and occupy it first militarily, and then make a civilian claim on it and say this is part of Israel, and subsume it back into Israel like it was before 2005, and even better. And when you speak with clarity and you explain to people what you're going to do and do it, right? Then that's the formula for real victory.
1,000%.
Right?
1,000%.
Clarity and then smart policy. If you have bad policy or confusing policy, and you're confusing, this is what Israel does. It has confusing policy and confusing efforts to legitimate, right? To legitimize, like its lingo is confusing. That leads to delegitimization. That also leads to anti-Semitism, because that is perceived as weakness. And weakness, as you and I have discussed many times, is a trigger for anti-Semitism. Okay, when the enemies sense that they can destroy Israel and the Jewish people, that's when they come out. And so when you want to tap down anti-Semitism, you have to show an Israeli strength. Israeli smart policy and clarity of messaging, clarity and unity of messaging.
And honesty and complete honesty. And what we've seen ever since October 7th is it's this huge failure to call out all the enemies. I was listing some of them before. I was listing UNRWA, but Egypt. I saw last night, I was reading from some pundit who lives not so far from you, was writing on Facebook, look at how well the peace agreement with Egypt has worked out. Really? Really? How well has it worked out? 90 tunnels into Gaza in absolute abrogation of that peace agreement. And then the tanks that are there. So we're not even calling out Egypt for what it's done, and then making the argument that we need to have peace with Egypt because they control the Suez Canal. If they're your enemy and they're at war with you and they are supplying the people who are invading you and killing your people, why do you need to let them control the Suez Canal? They've already broken their peace agreement.
That's right.
Why doesn't Israel control the Suez Canal?
You know, I have never thought that we should control the Suez Canal. I think we should control the Sinai. I think if you control the Suez Canal, you're basically going to kill Egypt altogether. I always felt like you should keep the Suez Canal, to yourself. It was never really Jewish or Israeli. It was like British. But the Sinai, we should definitely control. In my opinion, we should definitely control up to the Suez Canal, and certainly the 2 islands, the Tiran Straits and the Tiran Straits, we have to control those. And that's the natural borders. If you look at the map, it's so obvious that Israel and the Sinai are really one physical boundary.
I'd say sleep on that a little bit
All
and
right.
think about it, because the Suez Canal is a massive, massively important port for transport and communication, and to allow an enemy state to control it is very dangerous. And it's also it's an opportunity for influence. And whereas the Arab world has influence through all of its gas and oil and natural resources, if Israel controlled the Suez, it would have its own influence. And what Israel gave up when it gave up the Sinai was oil wealth in exchange for a promise of American aid that was supposed to replace the annual oil income that Israel would have gotten from the Sinai. There is a benefit to having your own wealth and not having to say, oh, we're paying our cost of our military and our whatever through the help of someone else, and we're going to rely on you and rely on your good graces. Because the fact is, America needs to be America first. God bless America. Let them be America first. And Israel needs to be Israel first. And sometimes the interests diverge, because you have Arab resources that are needed by other countries, by Europe, by Russia, by China, by America, and they have markets they want to sell to, etc. You shouldn't have to ask permission, because you got a big country over there that can take care of itself, and Israel needs to take care of itself.
That's right.
And controlling the Sinai and having those resources, and the resources off the coast of Lebanon. Lebanon has not been Israel's friend in all of this. Lebanon has not controlled its own Hezbollah threat. And yet Israel gave up $1 billion a year of revenue during the Biden years, during the Naftali Bennett and Yair Lapid leadership, $1 billion a year to Lebanon. For what? To advance negotiations between America and Iran that were phony baloney to begin with. Be clear, and just say, we're going to be strong. We're going to control our area. Oh, we've got those gas resources off. Sure, they're ours. We've got, you're attacking us from the Sinai. Sorry, no.
The Sinai was never Egyptian anyway in the first place. It's actually, I looked into it, and I actually had to change my own kind of speaking, my speaking points, talking points, because the truth is, in ancient times, ancient Egypt did control part of the Sinai, but not all of it, almost never all of it. But in any case, in the modern era, Sinai was separated off from Egypt. Israel needs to control it. It
was controlled by the Ottomans for a good long period. It was controlled by the Ottomans, and then it reverted. It reverted to Egypt under the British around 1907, give or take a couple of years. I might be off on the year, as a buffer against Ottoman aggression. And when that was the rationale that was used to give control of the Sinai, we should take that and carry that forward and think, it's a buffer against aggression. Who needs a buffer against aggression? Does Egypt need a buffer against Israeli aggression? No. We've got 100 years of history that shows that Israel needs a buffer against Egyptian aggression.
And we need a buffer against Africa, African smuggling, African migration,
weapon smuggling.
Yep. Let me remind our wonderful audience, of which there are so many people from all around the world who are joining us right now here, broadcasting live from the land of Israel. Thank you so much. And you are blessed because you are sending your blessings. Keep sending those blessings. I want to hear from you during this program. I want to hear what you think. There's so many of you out there right now live, and it's a pleasure. Thank you very much to my teammates, Yo and Elazar, who are on they're the producers of the show right now. Thank you so much. And I want to remind folks that a great way to communicate right now is through super chats. I know that you're a super chatter inside. You want to chat. You super want to chat. And the way you can super want to chat and get that done is through super chats. It's a great way to support our show and what we do here. And I'd love to read your thing. Oh, I saw super chat. Christian support from North Carolina for God's chosen people in their God-given land, including Judea and Samaria and Hebron. Thank you, Rich. Thank you very much. That's right. That's right. There is support of many Gentiles, lovers of Israel throughout the world. North Carolina is one of the great states. I've been to it a few times. And I'm so happy that you also know the proper terminology to Judea and Samaria and beautiful Hebron. That's where the tomb of the mamas and papas are. And thank you very much for your support. Jake, we can't be talking about the Sinai. Oh, Ladislav Siber from I guess, the Czech Republic, writes, who do you think will rule the world in the astrological age of Aquarius that will last the next 2,160 years? That will come about the year 2062. That is a great question. And I wonder that myself. But I think that who is going to control the world is God Almighty. He is going to control. He's been controlled from year zero until the very end. And I think that there's going to be a great age of yearning for God in this world, of yearning to learn his Torah. And as the prophet Zechariah says, to hold on to Jewish people's tzitzit and to come up to the God of Israel in Jerusalem. I think that there's going to be, I think we're going to go through an age of AI, and I think we're going to go through more craziness and destabilization. But I think that the more our world is destabilized, the more that truth is lacking, the more people are going to hold on to something that is solid, true, deep, not superficial, meaningful, that gives you satisfaction on a spiritual level. I think people are going to turn more and more to the Jews. I'll give you just one example. When the technological revolution of laundry machines and microwaves came about, a lot of people thought, well, there goes the Sabbath. Who needs the Sabbath? Because the Sabbath was a day of rest from all these very physical chores like doing laundry. And so funny that just a few years later, after the first mechanical revolution, came the digital revolution. And then suddenly you needed the Sabbath more than ever before in your life to detox, to turn off those screens, to get back to looking your children in the eye, to having a spiritual hours of concentration. And so it turned out that Sabbath that seemed for just like a few minutes there to be redundant and unnecessary became like a absolute need. And I feel in my heart that this age of AI, where truth is much harder to attain with clarity, you have a lot more information, but a lot less grip on what is true. People are going to yearn for something like a Torah scroll written by a scribe in the same way that's been done for 3,000 years. People are going to yearn for something that is indigenous on a spiritual level. And I think that's so I don't know much about Aquarius except for the song Aquarius. Other than that, I don't know much, but I do know that we're coming into a time of great consciousness. I hope that answers the question. Philip Daniel says, in the 1560s, Joseph Nasi unsuccessfully attempted to establish an autonomous Jewish principality under Ottoman suzerainty centered around Tiberias. That is true. And there's been other attempts, and they weren't successful. The time hadn't come yet. You know why it's been successful now and not back then? Because God wills it. That's it. Maybe it was because of European nationalism. Maybe it was the birth of nations. Maybe the time had come. But basically, the real truth is in the 1500s, there came these Kabbalists that lived in Sfat, and they called for the return of the land of Israel. But it took hundreds of years, basically to the middle 1700s, for there to be more aliyah, more people coming to the land. And then it took more time. And finally, the state of Israel was born in 1917. The state of Israel was not born in 1948. That's a misnomer. The state of Israel was born when the British kicked out the Ottoman Turkish control and basically Islamic control off the land, and basically created the idea of a Jewish state and started implementing that. Then they turned on us because their governments changed, and then we had to kick them out through force of arms, and that's when finally the Jewish state was really born. You agree with that, Jake?
Yeah. I think maybe 1920 is more the date that it came to fruition, when the League of Nations recognized the Jewish indigenous right to a national home and created the mandate for a Jewish state in Palestine. So I'd say, yeah, 1917 laid the foundation for it. The Balfour Declaration was included in full in that 1920 mandate. And I think that maybe a part of what led to the timing of the successful Jewish return after 2,000 years of praying for it every single day and calling for Hashana Haba B'Yerushalayim HaBnuya, next year in rebuilt Jerusalem, is that it happened at a time when we had amazing communication, international communication abilities. and the ability to reach. We were scattered everywhere across the world. We're able to actually get together and talk together and bring together, the World Zionist Congress, Jewish representatives from communities scattered throughout Western Europe, Eastern Europe, South America, North America.
Jake, speaking of that, did you vote in the American Zionist movement's WZO World Zionist World Zionist Organization elections? Have you voted?
I have voted. Yeah,
I'm happy that you have. I'm not going to ask you.
I recommend everyone should. There are 22 slates or so to look at. There's a lot. I saw before while I was on my way here, you had Tully Weiss on from Israel 365 with a great focus on Jewish biblical history and heritage. I'm on a slate for IAC, whose focus is funding American Israeli programming to help connect people to Israel. There are other great slates, Mizrahi, which is focused on serving IDF lone soldiers and wounded and families of people killed in action and building Jewish life and heritage in Israel. There are other ones, Herut, USA, and Likud. So if you're Jewish and you're in America or wherever you are, people around the world, you can.
No, it's American
countries, but for the AZM deadline, I know is today. I don't know if it's the same deadline for other countries and other parts of the world that might be tuned into your show right now. But you can go to the World Zionist Organization and find the right link for your country wherever you are. But for the American one, you can go in and vote. It costs $5.
And today it's $5 in 5 minutes. Today's the last day to make a difference. Okay, wait. Let's get back to our Jewish gal here.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, there's so much more. Hold on.
Oh my goodness. All right.
If there had been a mass migration of Jews from Palestine to Europe in the 1st century, that would show up in the historical record, in coins and pottery and textiles and historical texts, but the evidence just isn't there.
Oh.
But it is. Okay.
I don't know what this girl's name. I'm going to just nickname her Keanu. I don't know what she's I don't know what's going on with you, Keanu. You're like, what's going on? Don't you know that is definitely what we have. We have tons, endless amount of archaeology that's easily provable. That's Jewish. Just in Hebron, we have seals that were found from 2,800, 2,900 years ago that say in Hebrew, Lamelech Hebron, the LM. You can look it up on Wikipedia. It's LMKH seals. So silly. Silly.
All the archaeological proof is there for the Torah and for the whole Torah history. But I think she was talking about Jews in Europe. I think that was where we left off. She was looking for pottery and coins proving that Jews moved in mass from Israel to Europe. And what you had is a small community that started in Ashkenaz, in the area that's now Germany, that grew and there's records and there's history of this. But
okay, let's keep going. Let's have some more fun with Keanu here.
Shlomo Sand, again, this is the historian I've been quoting in this chapter, explains that many of his critics insist on defining historical Jewry as a people, one unique, exceptional, and immune to comparison. Such a view could be maintained only by providing a mythical image of the exile of a people that ostensibly took place in the 1st century BCE, despite the fact that the scholarly elite was well aware that such an exile never really occurred during the entire period in question. For this reason, not even one research-based book has thus been written on the forced uprooting of the Jewish people. So that was a quote from Shlomo.
There's one book which is written, which is called Josephus Flavius, right? And many of the historians that lived 2,000 years ago during the destruction of the Second Temple. That's like, what?
And there's more to Jewish history. Yeah, the Romans kicked us out of Jerusalem. We went to different parts of Israel, and some went to Ashkenaz, and some went to Egypt. And then you had a second, more massive Jewish immigration later in the 600s when the Arabs came and invaded the land of Israel. But you just got to go through Jewish history and learn Jewish history. There are a lot of pieces and components, and parts of the population moved here and parts moved here. I I don't know this Shlomo Sand. I never heard of him before in my life, but I mean, he sounds like a guy who really didn't do his research, but wrote a book.
I don't know if I think he sounds like a guy who has an agenda to erase the Jewish story, and that does happen. All right, let's give a few more minutes here to our friend.
And the invention of the Jewish people. Just think about that. There's not one scholarly book with compelling evidence about this mass exodus that supposedly occurred, this expulsion of Jews from Palestine into Europe. It just didn't happen. The historical record isn't there. Not one scholarly book. And academics know this. All the historians and the academics in the region, they know this. Okay, now this is me again going on. Sand accuses his critics of obfuscating the truth that Judaism from the 2nd century BCE to the 8th century CE was a proselytizing religion.
So, Beseder, I guess I've had enough a little bit of this lady. Just because it's an absurdity out there. It's just an absurdity that the Jewish people's history has been erased so willy-nilly. Jake, let's bring on another guest, okay? We have a guest right now. His name is Rabbi Kafa, and he is the author of this book. Is this? Do you see this backwards, or is this right?
It's backwards. The Gift of Eretz Yisrael. I'm reading it backwards. To rekindle
a forgotten love.
Beautiful.
Okay, and let's talk with Rabbi Kafa about his book. Rabbi.
Hi, Shalom Aleichem. Do you hear me, Rabbi?
Yeah, we hear you great. We hear you great. Tell me about what you've written, this beautiful book, which has day by day stories and Torahs about the land of Israel. Tell me why you've written this beautiful book. Why is it? Why was this? How long did it take you? What was the driving passion behind it?
The driving passion behind it was, as you can see, I'm more part of the, let's say, I'd call the Haredi Yeshivish community in Israel. And am I on? Do you guys hear me? It's just a bit blurry.
Yeah, we hear you so fabulously. Keep going, baby.
Awesome. I'm more on the outside, the way it appears. I'm part of I'm black and white, more part of the Israeli Yeshivish Haredi community in Israel. I grew up in Toronto. And it's just shocking to me that anytime I went in a bookstore, you'll have 15 books on Emunah, literally, without exaggeration. On Shabbat, you'll have 10 books on Shabbat. On Shmirat HaLashon, not speaking proper conduct of speech, you'll have another 8 books. But on Eretz Yisrael, you won't have one book in our community, which is just such a shocking thing, because the topic of Eretz Yisrael is mentioned more than Shabbat is mentioned in the Torah. It's mentioned for sure more about Lashon than Lashon Hara. It just doesn't exist. It's just so shocking to me that it just didn't exist in our community. So therefore, I purposely I made a book which it's definitely made for everybody. It's definitely made for everybody. But I also wanted for it to appeal to the Haredi Yeshivish community. And I really put a lot of emphasis and effort in order to make it appropriate for them and for them to see it eye to eye. And that's what really inspired the book.
Here is day 60. It says it's all in the name. The Gemara, the Talmud, in Bava Basra, that's one of the tractates, lists 3 things that are called with Hashem's name. Tzaddikim, righteous people, Mashiach, and Yerushalayim, Jerusalem. The Gemara cites a source for each of these 3, and the source regarding Jerusalem is from Ezekiel. Quote, surrounding it, there will be 18,000 cubits, and the name of the city from that day will be God is there. The Talmud explains that this should not be read God is there, Shama, but rather God is its name. Shema is its name. Beautiful. Okay, so this is a wonderful book, and you're saying that it's really geared to the ultra-Orthodox community, or at least something that you thought was lacking in the ultra-Orthodox community, and you sent it to me, and I fell in love with it, and I wanted to cover it on the show. Jake, beautiful book with great sources.
Can we share a link on Amazon to this book for people who want to buy a copy?
Yeah, is there a link on Amazon, Rabbi Kafa? By the way, great first name, Rabbi Yishai Kafa. I like that a lot.
Yes, of course there's. Of course there's. There's But yeah, it's on Amazon. It's definitely on Amazon. But I could just say one thing about, people are asking me, how can we set up the book in the way it is? I feel like anyone who's learned any tractate in Talmud or any parsha on the Torah, they know the importance of Eretz Yisrael. But some reason that still doesn't really register. The greatness when you put a story, it means that the way you were learning wasn't just some philosophical debate or philosophical idea. It means it was real. So when you see all these stories about how Gedolei Yisrael, our Torah leaders, really reacted and how they acted upon these feelings towards Eretz Yisrael, it makes the idea so real. I think it's the beauty of this book is that that people will see how the Chafetz Chaim, how the Ben Ish Chai, how the Belzer Rebbe, how all these great people who they're the people we aspire to and we look up to, how I'm still has his house in Eretz Yisrael. The Ben Ish Chai, the rock that he brought back from Eretz Yisrael when he visited here, went back to Baghdad. It's still in the old this old synagogue of Baghdad, and the other rock that he brought back is still in his grave with him. It makes it real, and that's the greatness of the book. It's not only Divrei Torah, but it's also stories of tzaddikim which make the Divrei Torah so real.
Very good, Rabbi Jake Kafa. The book is called The Gift of Eretz Yisrael. I found it on Amazon, amazon.com/gift, Eretz Yisrael Lessons Greatness. And it's a beautiful book. And I just want you to know that Gentiles were at my house Friday night, and they love Jewish books, and they love books that teach them Torah. They will love this as well. This is great for Jews, great for ultra-Orthodox Jews, for the Haredi Yeshivish community, but it's also good for non-Jews who want sources about the holiness and importance of the land of Israel. Rabbi Yishai Kafa, thanks so much for joining us. Toda rabba, kol hakavod.
Kol hakavod, Rabbi.
Good on you for teaching us so much great stuff. And there are great writers in the land of Israel, and they're sending out a truth. And this is a passion. This is a passion, Jake. We got to get passionate about it. We live in a time of passion, and we have to be passionate about the land of Israel. I know that you always amaze me, by the way. I want you to know, you always amaze me with your passionate connection to the land. I'm always like, gosh, Jake, he's like, like if I should only be so turned on to the land of Israel. I love that.
You are. Come on.
You always turn me on about that. What do you want me to play right now? I have about 5 more minutes. Should I play a Nitzana Darshan Leitner's 4 or 5 points about international law in Israel, or do you want us to go to the short Tucker Carlson and Matt Walsh reacting to Dave Smith? Which one do you want me to do?
Oh, I haven't seen the Leitner one. I don't think I've seen that one. If you want to play that. No, let's do the Tucker Carlson, Matt Walsh. I've got a little more time, and then I have to go give.
And I got the next guest. This show keeps going, baby. This is you know what I mean. This is a moving show. All right, let's watch Tucker Carlson. Here we go.
Yeah.
The debate between Dave.
Hold on, go ahead. What were you saying? Say that again.
So people know. For people who haven't followed this over the last couple of weeks, there was a Joe Rogan Experience podcast that hosted Dave Smith, a comedian who's been nonstop talking about Israel for the last 18 months, critical of Israel for everything it's done in Gaza, saying that it's morally bankrupt for just the death count there. And he had him counterposed and debating Douglas Murray, who's been an amazing, staunch defender of Israel and Western civilization for a long time. And what's happened after that has been a spinoff of reactions by everyone in the blogosphere and in social media. And this clip we're about to watch is a little bit of a discussion about that conversation. So and there's a lot to digest out there, but that's the background for those who.
Here's Tucker. You see how deeply he's thinking? Look at that deep thought. So deep in thought.
That's
okay, here we go.
Pose.
That's right.
What did you think of the debate between Dave Smith and Douglas Murray on Rogan a couple of weeks ago? Did you watch that? And what
I did. I watched. I ended up watching. I wasn't planning on watching the whole thing, but I watched the whole thing. I'm constantly hearing from the Peanut Gallery demanding that I kind of give my verdict or my take on Israel and Israel versus Palestine and all this kind of stuff. And I have given my take, and my take is I don't care that much. I'm not just America first. I'm an American chauvinist in that I only care about my own country. I honestly don't care about other countries. I wish the people of.
Go ahead.
I just want to say I love and appreciate that honesty, and I wish, frankly, and it comes out that he really means it. You hear it from the nuance of the things he's going to keep saying, because I've heard this clip. Sorry, But we've got a lot of one of the like defining notes of anti-Semites in our generation is an obsession with Israel. People who can't stop talking about it. Okay, and I could go through a list of names. I'm not going to, but the fact that Matt Walsh generally doesn't, unless someone comes and asks him, and when they ask me, he says, "I don't care." Thank you for not being obsessed with us and the Jew. I love being obsessed with my own people and culture and heritage and identity and passing that on to my children. A healthy sense of self and love of our people and culture and heritage. But Matt Walsh, you do you, we do us.
That's what he's saying.
Thank you to Matt Walsh. I appreciate that.
Okay. All right.
Not everyone has to be obsessed with Israel.
Okay, good.
Of other countries, I think they all have a right to defend themselves, and they should. I think that if you can't defend yourself as a nation, or if you can't survive without being propped up by another government, say ours, then you shouldn't exist as a country.
Wait. If you can't exist without being propped up by another government, say ours, you shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Israel cannot exist without being propped up by the United States.
All right, hold on, Jake. Before you jump in, I want to say something here.
Yeah.
You know what countries can't exist without the United States? Jordan.
The list of them. Yeah.
Jordan, Egypt.
Yep.
I mean, those are two that come to mind immediately to me.
I mean, Qatar also. Qatar, which is
Qatar's
trillions
got
of
a lot of
dollars,
oil.
that puts an air base with, okay, hey, they got a great big air base.
No, they can exist without the United States, but Jordan and Egypt will be dead.
They're afraid. They're afraid though. Why did they host an American air base? For influence and out of fear.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that they would be gone without Israel. Look at the GDPs of these countries. They're really pathetic, poor countries.
Yeah,
Jordan
the per capita GDPs are pathetic.
Yeah, their per capita GDP. Yeah. Israel, it's true. Israel is allied with America. In many ways, Israel depends on America, but Israel can exist without America. Where's this idea that Israel can't exist? I mean, speaking of chauvinism, I mean, where do you get off? I mean, it's true.
It's the bubble he lives in. If he's living, it's based on who he's getting his information from. If he's getting his idea from the folks who wrote the book, The Jewish Lobby, Mearsheimer and Walt, and he's listening to Professor Jeffrey Sachs of Columbia. Everything's a Jewish conspiracy for American aid because Israel couldn't survive without it. But if you look at Israel's wars and Israel's amazing defense of itself, what's held Israel back and kept the threat strong decade after decade and generation after generation has been American interference, where America, because it has its own interests and as it should, it has been playing both sides. So let's take.
Wait. I did not understand what you're saying.
Okay, here's what I'm saying. He's saying Israel couldn't exist without American aid. I'm saying Israel would be safer without American interference. So there's two things that happen. America's selling arms to Israel.
First thing, do you agree with the argument that a country shouldn't exist if it's supported by another country? I'm not sure I understand the exact logic of that.
I'm not sure that I agree with that, but I think it's a false. I think it's a kind of a false argument, and it's a false argument because he's assuming that Israel wouldn't exist without America, and I don't believe that's true.
Right? Maybe Israel. Maybe if the countries that are propped up by America would be gone, Israel will be bigger and stronger in this region. Okay, maybe Jordan is a really troublesome country. And Egypt, these are both fake allies of Israel, fake peace agreements, right? And they actually are the channels of a lot of weapons against Israel. And they siphon off a lot of our resources to them. Okay, and this is one of these holdovers of the Kissinger doctrine.
Absolutely. If Kissinger hadn't pressed Israel not to do a first strike in 1973 on the Yom Kippur War, Israel could have done a first strike. It might have ended up being like the 6-Day War in 1967.
Right. Maybe we would have.
If he hadn't withheld arm resupply, that war could have gone quicker and better for Israel. But also, there's a lesson for Israel that it needs to learn, and it repeated on October 7th. Israel should be stockpiling as though it has no friends in the world, because when push comes to shove, you can't rely even on your best of friends because they have other interests. When they're a country, they have other interests.
It looks like Tucker has not a lot of respect for Israel, and he thinks that we're a totally reliant country. And basically, he was intimating in that exchange that Israel doesn't have a right to exist because it's some kind of leech or sucking off, and then that immediately connects to a kind of anti-Semitism. You see the Jews are kind of leech people, right?
Absolutely. That's one of the downsides of American aid. It is a real source of anti-Semitism, or an excuse for anti-Semitism. And just to give 3 more fast examples, 1, 2, 3, 1956, Israel took the Sinai, very quickly, and it was because of issues that Britain and France were having with Egypt, and Israel was being attacked from the Sinai from Egypt. Israel took it, and it was pressure from Eisenhower that made Israel give it back. So this story of America and Israel, yes, America is Israel's best ally, and Israel is a great ally to the United States, 100%.
But is it true or is it not true that Israel will not exist without America?
No,
I say that's not true. We
It's not
switched
true.
alliances after the 6-Day War from France to America, and we may have different alliances, or maybe we will be the big boy in the block in the next coming years.
In the Lebanon War in 1982, it was pressure from the Reagan administration that made Israel give safe passage to Yasser Arafat to leave. He was the cause of that war. It was all of his invasions from the north. Let Israel act in its own interest and kill its enemies and kill Yasser Arafat, and you wouldn't have had the wars of the last 45 years.
All
And
of
you
the
wouldn't have had
two-state
Oslo.
stuff, all of the two-state stuff, all of the shrinking of
All of
Israel
Oslo.
has come from the United States. If it's Jimmy Carter with the Sinai, and part of that was giving away Judea and Samaria, we did a video about that. If it's the Oslo Accords, if it's the disengagement.
Even Clinton, even Bush, W. Bush. In the middle of the Second Intifada, Israel had Arafat trapped in his headquarters. My own team from my own unit in the Israeli commandos had him trapped for 2 or 3 weeks, sitting there, and was told to let him live. Why? Because America thought it would be good for relations with the Arabs while they were prosecuting their war against their own threats. But, so that's it. My only point is that there's a lot of history that most people don't know, never hear about, don't talk about. Israel can do well on its own and not be an isolationist. That's not what I'm talking about. Be a friend to everyone, work with everyone, but have some clear lines and say, we're not going to allow our country to be bombed to smithereens, or to have our children victimized. We're going to stand up for our own people and our own life. And then you might see a totally different world emerge, where the terrorists are afraid and people live in a real kind of a peace with each other.
You shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Israel cannot exist without being propped up by the United States.
You think so?
Its nuclear program came from the United States. Its weapons come from the United States. Its economy is supported.
Wasn't Israel's nuclear program actually from France originally?
I don't know. I think
it was actually Shimon Peres who had a great relationship with the French, and that's where the nuclear program came from, if it exists, right?
By the United States. I'm not attacking Israel. I'm just saying, in point of fact, I think that's true. I mean, Israel thinks it's true, or they wouldn't have armies of lobbyists and influencers in the United States. Bibi wouldn't have shown up twice in the past 3 months.
Pause. I just got to say, there's a thing that's happening here. This is an anti-Semitic trope that needs to be called out. Israel has armies of lobbyists. When AIPAC goes and lobbies in DC, AIPAC is not a representative of the country of Israel. AIPAC is very clear all the time. We are representing American Jews who care about Israel. But
it is an Israel lobby.
It's a pro-Israel lobby, but he's making a comparison between, and he's leaving out, Qatar has lobbyists. They have paid influencers. They have foreign agents. They've paid foreign agents. They, in fact, have on retainer all the major law firms in the Washington, D.C. area. That's Qatar. That's Qatar having a lobby. But
what about the NRA or the AARP? Are they
the AARP, the NRA? Everyone has lobbies. But my point is this: that the lobby in D.C. on behalf of Israel is from Jews and Christians who love Israel. It is not from the state of Israel, because that doesn't happen. And this is an accusation that's meant to.
It is, but I also think that there's. I don't think there's any truth in his accusation, but I think there is a kind of danger. We should lobby a little bit less. We should be a little bit more independent. We should be a little bit less. Those American Jews, they very much love American support of Israel and American aid to Israel, because that gives them legitimization as American Jews and to call themselves Zionists. and
there
there
are
is
Zionists. They do love Israel, but I
Yes.
would say I'll push
True.
back on 2 points there. I don't
Go
think
ahead.
Israel should lobby any less. That's what your embassy's for. That's what your foreign ministry staff is for. That's a country having relations. Israel does its thing. Should American Jews lobby less for Israel? No, lobby all the time. Is foreign aid healthy or good for Israel? I think that if it were if Israel were completely independent and stockpiled and self-sufficient militarily, that it could fight 10 wars in a row and be like, have an attitude like Russia had going into World War II and coming out of World War II, that the world is a dangerous place. I don't ever want to be out of rifles or ammo or tanks or tank shells. If Israel had that attitude and stockpiled everything it needed and didn't have a deterrence that was dependent on an alliance with another country, Israel would be okay. And then would the aid help? Maybe yes, no. And frankly, I don't think it would need it. And I don't think it does need it. But also, you got to stop giving up your economic advantage when you have it. You know, what's the point of getting $3.8 billion a year from the United States if you've given up $5 billion a year from Sinai oil and given up $1 billion a year of offshore gas?
Or stop making your own jets.
Resources.
Or forced to stop making your own jets. Right,
forced to stop making the Lavi jet in the 1980s.
Right.
Yeah,
right. So I think now
and forced to buy American jets instead of ground to ground missiles.
I think what you're saying now that I've heard you kind of say it in a few different ways, what you're saying is, yes, America supports Israel, but also at a great cost of shrinking Israel. And not only are we not totally dependent on it, in fact, in many ways, it keeps us dependent on it. It keeps us small, and that's
it impinges Israeli sovereignty. It impinges Israeli independence. It impinges on Israeli democracy in a big way, because instead of allowing the will of the people to be asserted through the elected officials, you have the will of the people that is distorted by foreign pressure, and even by this pressure on keeping unelected courts in charge of the country. Those courts are not elected. No one elected the Supreme Court, but the Knesset is blocked by the Supreme Court. The Prime Minister is blocked by the Supreme Court. There was a Biden senior aide was quoted actually he went on a platform live, and it was in the news. I think I sent you this article this morning saying that in the wake of October 7th, we tried to oust Bibi Netanyahu. We wanted to oust Bibi Netanyahu. They wanted a regime change in Israel after October 7th because they didn't like that Israel was going to fight back so hard. That should be a wake-up call to everybody in Israel, that you need to wean yourself off of dependence if you want to protect your own democracy and have your own way and have your own sovereignty.
Okay, I'm dealing with a lot of stuff, Bezrat Hashem. And one second, hold on one second. I'm just dealing with we're doing a live show, baby. That's the way it works. One second. One second. Right. Can we finish off this clip, please?
Let's do it.
Jake? Okay.
Yeah.
My perspective, it seems like they can handle themselves quite fine. But any country, if there is any country out there that fundamentally cannot exist without being subsidized by American taxpayers, then not only should that country not exist, but that country already does not exist.
He said something that got lost when we cut and then restarted. He said, I think Israel can handle itself just fine. And I appreciate him saying that, and I agree with him saying that.
Israel can and will exist without the United States. I think actually, I think that the phrasing here is not correct. I think the phrasing should be that if anybody helps Israel, that should be their greatest pride.
Absolutely.
Like, wow, I can't believe that our empire and our great Commonwealth and state has the zechut, the merit, to in any way help create the God's dream, that fulfill this prophecy and vision of the Jewish state. That's what, by the way, the British in the early 20th century, that's what they felt. They're like, wow, we have a chance to do this thing.
Yeah.
To fulfill the Bible, to make it happen. And that's what drove them for years and years and years to help create it. I say the same thing about airlines. You have a flight that lands in Tel Aviv. You should be like my greatest pride in here in Lufthansa is that we can ferry people to Jerusalem. That's like my great, that's our line. That's our gold line. That's like our gold. That's the thing. That's the thing. Or if you're like a supermarket and you're like, and I carry wines from the Holy Land. Like this whole thing about, well, if Israel can't survive, then America shouldn't survive. Like, shut up.
Yes.
Just shut up. You're
Agreed.
totally missing the whole thing. You have no sense of humanity, of what the destiny of humanity is. Have a moment where you're like, oh yeah, that's right. We don't just exist for myself. I'm an American chauvinist. You're supposed to actually exist for something greater than yourself. Okay. You're supposed to
1,000%, 1,000%. Amen and amen. 100%. Anyone that has any opportunity to have any part in Israel in any way should feel the blessing of every piece of it.
That's right.
A few days ago, I made myself a cup of tea, and in that tea, I scooped a dollop of honey from a jar from the honeycombs of my old IDF officer that he raises in his backyard. Okay. That little drop of honey in my tea was a blessing from Israel. I made myself a smoothie in the kitchen, and I had some almonds from a Etz Shaked, an almond tree in Israel. That's a blessing. I get my Lev HaOlam box every month with surprises and gifts for the family or friends, and every one of those is a blessing. In a country that gets to be a part of that, it's a blessing. 1,000%.
Right. It's like, I'm an American chauvinist. Come on. Be a God chauvinist.
It was his saving grace was that line that I think Israel can handle itself just fine. But he's getting to a point of he doesn't want to fund anyone anywhere.
Right.
Good. Let's get there. Let's get there and get all this garbage out of the way. But the fact is also, and this is worth mentioning for anyone who wants the big picture here, is for all of the so-called aid that America gives Israel is to those who are at the highest levels of and even at the baseline level in American military. Israel's like an aircraft carrier of values and democracy and justice. It's a land-based aircraft carrier for the United States because it is the only country that upholds the values that America was built on and that all of these crazy progressive lefties want to tear down. The values of individual rights and human rights and protection of law and equal rights under the law, and even democracy, all of these things. But the just gross hypocrisy of people on the far left and even those Tucker Carlson's friends on the far right who say they want to side with the other. They are siding with tyranny and oppression and jihad that wants to tear down Western civilization, Christian countries, Christian civilization, and they should know it. And how don't they? I don't know. But the country that's standing in the breach and holding back the war of jihad is Israel. So if these guys don't get it, they're missing something really, really fundamentally deep and
so
basic.
What you're saying here at the end is it's actually Israel that's protecting America.
1,000%.
1,000%. Jake Bennett, international man of mystery, defending the Jewish people around the world. Thank you very much for joining us. You're actually going right now to give a speech about Israel to a community. And so thank you very much for doing that. And I want to wish you a Shavua Tov, a happy new week. And I didn't get a chance to say to you, happy Israel Independence Day, happy Yom Ha'atzmaut. And we continue to fight for Israel's independence from the nations, but dependence on Hashem and his blessings. So thank you very much for being with us, Jake.
Thank you. God bless you. God bless your mission. Keep it up. You do amazing work. And I love to see it. And I feel it's a privilege, a merit for me just to be a little part of it. So
that's right, because we're a part of Hashem's great dream and of the land of Israel and the rebirth. All right, Jake Bennett, thank you so much. Shalom. And that was Jake, and that was really fun to have him. And we're on the mega show here from the good land. We're just pushing it out. And you are with us wherever you are, all over the world. I want to thank Yo and Elazar for being on the team and helping us produce the show right now. And I am broadcasting live from Judea. That's the air of Judea I just breathed. And I feel so lucky and so blessed. And I know that you are blessed if you are part of the show. And there's hundreds of people right now with us on the live stream, and there'll be thousands more later on. So thank you very much. Don't forget to chat and super chat. When you super chat, you are sending blessings to our channel, and we're going to continue to push hard and push out the story and fight the lies. There's so many great people out there. Send out a little super chat if you can. I want to read your comment and send it out to the world. Oh, there's Joe Musacchio. He writes, I wonder how Tucker would get along with Rabbi Manis Friedman as he claims he likes Chabad. That would be a great show. Tucker and Manis Friedman, that would be awesome. Awesome. And thank you very much for your blessings. Great. Awesome. Now, one of the greatest blessings in my life has been my wife, Malka Fleischer, co-hostess with the mostest, broadcaster extraordinaire. And not to mention the wondrous Hungarian cooking that has kept me healthy and strong throughout all these years. And of course, Ezra Kenegdo, as it says in the Bible, a helper and an assistant, and sometimes a little contra to keep me in line. Malka Fleischer, welcome to the show. Shalom.
Hey, Shai. I feel like it's been a million years since you had your show live. You've been so busy.
I was in America for a while on a tour. Before that was Passover, and it was a heavy load of stuff that I had to deal with. And it's great to have you on live with us. And there's hundreds of people all over the world that are with us. Everybody say hello, Malka. Shalom. There you go.
Hey, guys.
Malka. Thank you so much for joining us. And I love your necklace there that has that bespeaks of the 10 Commandments. And we are moving towards Shavuot. We are counting the Omer, which is the 50-day count, 49 days that we count from the second day of Passover all the way to the 50th day, which is Shavuot. Last night was 21. We have not yet counted. I have not yet counted the next day, so I'm very excited to count that for you when the show is over with you.
Nice. Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Now, Malka, there's a lot of first thing, tell me about the last few days. We've had a big missile attack. We had on Shabbat morning the awakening early with another missile salvo, or at least sirens went off, and then we had the big fire in Jerusalem, set off not by global warming but by terror arsonists. Tell me about the last few days, including Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel Independence Day. How's that been for you?
You know, it's been part of like a general, a longer range roller coaster ride that the Jewish people, particularly in the land of Israel, have been on. You know, Yom Ha'atzmaut this year was very nice. I think the atmosphere was one of not like simple celebration. You know, there are years where it's like, okay, it's Yom Ha'atzmaut, everybody bust out your blue and white stuff and put your flags out and get your coals and what are we eating and like where are we going and all that stuff was there, but it was a little, everyone feels that we're in the middle of unfinished business. And so we're in the middle of unfinished business. You know, it's not just like party time. So we did have a really wonderful time, but I think people did it like very much conscientiously. And it wasn't just like a light, you know, like Independence Day, simple thing. But we had a great time. Isha, did you play that video already of that crazy AI that somebody made for Independence Day?
I'm glad
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I actually wanted to ask you which videos you want me to put out. Let me see if I can find that one. Hold on.
See if you can find that one. We are in such an era today. I'm sure we're going to be talking, you and I and you and a lot of your guests, about the ups and the downs of artificial intelligence. It's like it's now like one of the partners in our lives, whether we want it to be or not. It's so interesting how quickly it's like taking a place. Isha, it's a black and white video, Isha. It's a music video. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about, but I can't see it. I thought I downloaded it. In the meantime, I'll get it in a second. All
right. Well, anyway, we had Israel Independence Day. One of the things that was a little bit hard for me over the last few days was actually the day before Israel Independence Day, which was Yom HaZikaron, Israeli Memorial Day. I heard you a little bit talking about that on the show. And really, it is like one of the truly wisest things that was done in the foundation, the early years of Israel, was putting Israel's Memorial Day right up next to Israel Independence Day. It's very meaningful. But one thing that happened this year, Yishai, was we had these fires break out, quote unquote, these arson attacks. And so, here in Israel, of course, people go to Memorial Day events. They go to cemeteries where soldiers are buried and where victims of terror are buried. But also there is really excellent television put out by all the Israeli television stations, in which they do features of various soldiers and various people who gave their lives for the state of Israel. And they talk about who they were and their families and what happened to them and do interviews. And it's really like a day where you can actually, you and I, we don't watch so much Israeli TV, but on Yom HaZikaron, on Israeli Memorial Day, we watch a lot of TV because they do actually a beautiful, beautiful job. And it really puts you in the place of getting to know these Israelis from around the country and getting to really appreciate them and to appreciate the sacrifice that their families made. But this year, because of the arson attacks, all that coverage was cut, and the coverage went to the fires in Jerusalem. And such a boiling little pit of rage opened up in my stomach, Yishai, and I could not put it down basically until the next day, meaning to say Yom HaAtzmaut in the morning. The fact that the attention was taken off of our beloved brothers and sisters and their families who suffer so much and have this one day where they can remember, I mean, obviously they remember their loved ones every second of every day, right? But have it nationally recognized and that the whole country is along with them. And that was cut short really upset me. And it really made me feel terrorized. You know what I mean? It really, like, they did the job, these arsonists. Like, they managed to trick the whole country into wiping off our Memorial Day and having to focus on this disgusting destruction of our beautiful forests that Jews from around the world have paid so much money and given their little coins into tzedakah boxes for years and years and years so that we could have forests in Israel. It reminds me, Isha, I don't know if anyone talked about this throughout your show, but someone was saying that this is just another proof that this land has nothing to do with the people who committed this arson, and that it's very much like the story of King Solomon and the two mothers, King Solomon and the baby. Do you know that story, Isha? You remember that story?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
In which two mothers come to King Solomon with one baby who's living and one baby who's no longer living, and both mothers claim that the living baby belongs to them. And King Solomon says to them, well, okay, we'll just split the baby then. I can't figure out who it really belongs to. We'll just split it in half. And one of the mothers goes, sounds good to me. And the other mother goes, no, never mind. It's her baby. And King Solomon says, you, the one who says it's that lady's baby, it's actually your baby, because only a mother, the mother of this child would be willing to sacrifice all her claims to this baby just to keep it alive. And so is the same case with the land of Israel. Here you have people who look at this. It breaks my heart on these olive trees. To see, you showed, I guess, the videos, Ishai, of these olive trees burning from the inside. The disgusting, just, I don't know what word to use for it. The total destructive disdain for everything, the sheer desire to commit destruction, to hurt Jews, and not caring at all about what they do as long as Jews, have to struggle a little bit. As if, by the way, they didn't know that, of course, we're going to put out the fires, right? They're not so deluded as to think that the whole country is going to be burned down as a result of this act. They know that at some point we'll get control of it, but it's worth it to them to murder some trees in order to just, cause a little bit of havoc for the Jews on their Memorial Day. And so I was very upset by that.
Yeah. And by the way, it wasn't just because it was Memorial Day. It was also because the conditions were right, for such an attack, the winds, the hot winds, and the arsonists. That's just their terrorism. They're good at that. And I think your point is like how much destruction of trees of the land was done. Of course, we know though that even great fires like that end up beautifying the land. More new trees grow because of that. Nutrients are brought into the ground. But still, though, the destructive nature of so-called Palestinians, just like the Bible describes the idea that they stop up the wells in order to block Abraham and his seed from having that water. That's what we saw. By the way, I did find that video, Malka. So let me get that video for you. It was in my files, but I just didn't see it. Here's that video.
Okay.
בעליות בירידות, גם בשעות הכי קשות, הקדוש ברוך הוא שומר עלינו, מי יכול עלינו? כי אין לנו עוד מדינה, תעש בשלום בינינו, שמור על ילדינו, קיבלו עבדה האמונה. נו גולדה, יש עתיד?
That's definitely a fun video there, and obviously it was generated by AI because those people are long gone. There is no black and white video of them, and that's a new song that they're singing. But it's a great way to and the song itself is, we have no other land, and we have to have faith, and we have to have togetherness, and so it's a special little video that you saw there, and you found it. Why did you like this video so much, Malka?
I thought it was cool that you had David Ben-Gurion and Golda Meir and Theodor Herzl and Chaim Weizmann, who I think also Zev Jabotinsky. I wasn't sure exactly who I was seeing there.
No, there's no Jabotinsky there.
No, who was the fourth person?
There's Weizmann. There's Weizmann. There's Herzl. There's Golda. There's Ben-Gurion, and I think there's somebody else that I didn't exactly
understand. That's exactly okay. That other person. I just thought it was. I actually. It's not that I'm so enamored of those Israeli leaders, but I thought it was pretty amazing that somebody was able to take them and I guess used voice analysis or something to put their voices into this new song, and to create something fun for people for Yom Ha'atzmaut. And in the end, we did have a really beautiful Yom Ha'atzmaut, and we. Even though there was a nationwide prohibition on public grilling because of the fires, people were allowed to have their grills in their homes, and we did end up having a really good time. And now we're on to Shavuot and the receiving of the Torah.
Hold on. Before Shavuot, there's a lot more holidays.
Okay, yes.
Second Passover. There's Lag BaOmer.
That's true, and I have 2 stacks of matzahs just waiting to become matzah brai.
Yom Yerushalayim.
Yes.
We got a lot coming up. Coming up.
I guess I just see Shavuot, because we're counting towards Shavuot.
That's right.
So to me, that's like where we're going.
Malka, because I've been so busy lately, and you've sent me a lot of good videos, and I have on my stack here all kinds of videos. I don't remember what they are. There's one that says, "What would life look like without the Jews?" Or why do people hate the Jews? Why the Jews are hated everywhere? Which one do you want me to play? Which one? Do you remember?
I don't know. Surprise me. No.
All right, let's go with what would life look like without the Jews? Let's do that.
What would life look like without the Jews? I grew up in Lebanon, where I learned that every problem we encounter in life is caused by the Jews and Israel. When I matured, I understood that it's really convenient for corrupt governments that failed at governing to blame it on Israel. I understood that Israel cannot prevent its neighboring countries from introducing reforms, judicial, economic, educational. I understood that Israel cannot prevent our countries from emancipating women or protecting them or protecting children. Israel cannot prevent our countries from innovating, from recycling, from creating job opportunities. And why would they? That'll keep their neighbors busy in a positive way. I understood that without the Jews, we wouldn't have less problems, but less technology, less innovation, less research, and so on and so on. Without the Jews, many Muslims and Christians wouldn't have the antagonist in their story. In fact, without the Jews, Christians and Muslims wouldn't have a story.
So, it's amazing how many Arabs and Muslims and other people like Druze, who we're going to talk about soon on the program today, how many of them actually are using the internet to send out positivity, positive vibes towards Israel? There's a lot of hate, but there's also a lot of love. This is the second video I played today from I had an Israeli Arab on earlier, and this is a Lebanese woman. We're going to have an Israeli Druze later on in the program. So, like, it's amazing how the internet is actually allowing for real truth messages to come out. And that was a beautiful one.
Absolutely. And I think that we, just as we were talking about living in an age of AI where David Ben-Gurion can sing you popular songs that are on the radio, we also live in a time, mercifully, really, in which mainstream media's hold on truth is cracking, and in which individuals can have more of a voice and to gain more of a following, like you, Ishai. How would people know about life in Judea if they didn't have, is the mainstream media going to make sure that people know about what life is like in Judea so that they can, have fair coverage? Or is the mainstream media going to interview pro-Israel Lebanese women? They're not going to do any of that, right? And those people are having the guts to raise up their voices and get out there and put themselves a little YouTube channel and start to speak and to be on Instagram and to be on TikTok and to the credit of the world, I guess, there are people who want to hear that too. There are people who want to listen. They want to hear from Lebanese pro-Israel women, and they want to hear from funny guys from Judea with interesting life stories, and they want to connect to truth. And we definitely live in a time, I guess, I don't know, maybe we've always had to grapple with what's true and what's not true. And, I've only lived in the generation I live in. And I think now with AI, it's going to become even more confusing to figure out what's true and not true. But nonetheless, we should all take heart that there are real warm-hearted people out there who are putting themselves out there and raising up their voices, and we can access them and we can access each other and we can get together and truth can shine out.
Thank you very much, Manka, for those words. And you're right. And I am so grateful to Hashem for this technology of being able to talk to the world from my studio here. And thank you so much for joining me. And I want everybody that wants to be part of the program to keep commenting. There's hundreds, there's over 1,500 comments here. And I would love to also, I would love also for people to super chat, because it's a great way to connect and to send your blessings. So super chat, choose super chat all the way into the broadcast, and it's a blessing for us. Thank you very much, Malka. So what are you looking forward to? What's your next? What's your next? I'm home now after a whirlwind tour of America. What's your next? What's your next mission? Just surviving or what?
I mean, there's always that, right? You have to, make your food and raise your kids, and
not to mention that the school teachers had a mini strike today, right?
I don't want to depress the people, okay? But we did have another strike today. Whatever. I have to say that one thing that they say about Israelis is really true, which is that Israelis are tough. And on Shabbat, Ishai, we were pulled out of our beds at 6:45 in the morning, and we all had to go down to the bomb shelter, and we're all shuffling down there. It's Shabbat morning. Shabbat morning, a lot of people like to sleep a little bit later. They've worked really hard all week long, and we're like shuffling down the stairs in our pajamas, us and all of our neighbors. And I'm sitting there in the bomb shelter, and the major thought that went through my head is, if I keep my eyes closed, I won't break the seal on my sleepiness. And maybe when this is all over, I'll be able to go back up the stairs and fall asleep which I successfully did. And I was really happy about that. And so it's funny because things that would like freak out other people very badly and shake them for a day or many days, for Israelis by now is just,
Yeah.
And that's not only a good thing. We shouldn't become used to having to go to bomb shelters and for it to not be a big deal. That's not right? There's something broken there. And yet, the fact that we're able to have a huge fire and clear the road and make it that people can get back on the highway quickly, or that we can have a long-range ballistic missile fall at our airport and then we just kind of sweep it away and keep going. There is something kind of nice and cool about that. And I have to give us credit for being able to, maybe that's like the stiff-necked people in us, you can't, bend us out of shape too fast. But Am Yisrael Chai, Yishai, Am Yisrael Chai. It's summertime. We're all starting to have our eyeballs on the end of the year, and people are signing their kids up for camp and, driver's ed lessons and end of school ceremonies, and life just goes on. And my major thought right now is which cheesecake I'm going to make in a couple of weeks.
Very good, Malka. Very good. We are all looking forward to your cheesecake. It's a national holiday in itself. And by the way, you reminded me of something, which is you talked about the summer, and I want to recommend for people to check this out, which is this website, which is eventstheisraelguys.com. I'm going to be at the Israel Summit in June 9, 10th, 11th, and that's in Dallas, Texas. And you are invited. Sign up and join us at this incredible. By the way, Malka, they are desperate for you to come as well and to come and speak there. We'll see if that's
I would
doable.
love to. I don't know. It's not such a, excuse me. It's not such a good time of year because it's really like as the school year is winding down, I have to make sure that everybody, has what they need and is where they're supposed to be. And
but if you
we'll
want to
see. But it would be awesome.
Hear great people, including myself and Ari Abramovich, Jeremy Gimpel, and others. We're going to be in Dallas, June 9th, 10th, 11th, and you could sign up at eventstheisraelguys.com. Malka Fleischer, thank you so much for joining us, and we are sending you blessings from the land of blessings. You are a blessing to us, and we're going to keep fighting. Next up, Malka, we have a Druze, an Israeli Druze, who's going to give us the situation about Israeli Druze, but also about what's going on with the Syrian Druze. Is Israel backing them up? Is Israel not backing them up? What should Israel do?
Interesting. Okay, good.
We're going to have a serious policy discussion in just a second. But before that, I want to thank you so much for all the good stuff that you do and the energy that you send out into the world, the blessings that you send out.
Keep it up, Yishai. See you soon.
All right. Very good. Malka Fleischer, that was a lot of fun to have her on the show. And now let's get to a little bit of a situation regionally, and that is the question of Syria. Syria is a chunk of land that has an incredible history. Some of the oldest places in the world, like Aleppo, oldest civilizations in this world, oldest habited cities, thousands of years. At the same time, Syria has not been such an easy country to live in because of the Assad regime, which was extremely suppressive of its citizenry, because of the civil war that displaced millions. And everybody cares about when Jews fight with Arabs, but nobody cares when Arabs fight with Arabs, and that hundreds of thousands are murdered and millions are displaced. So many Syrians are on that Turkish border and living in tents and all kinds of conditions. Many are just emigrating out. At the same time, in southern Syria and in Lebanon, there are other peoples that are there may be Arabic speakers, but they are Christian Syriac, they are Druze and other peoples, Alawites that are maybe Muslim, but a different kind of Muslim, and they live in a very tenuous situation. Now, Israel fought a big war with Hezbollah starting on October 8th. Now, Hezbollah was a tool of Iran to strike at Israel, just like Hamas. Then Israel kind of struck back at Hezbollah, I myself was injured by a Hezbollah roadside bomb in 1995. But Israel struck hard at Hezbollah, including the famous beeper attack, which neutralized a lot of their fighters, a lot of their top fighters. Then, the minute the war stopped with Hezbollah in a kind of bad deal that Israel made with Lebanon, immediately rebel forces that existed in Syria began to attack. They sensed that this is the time where the Syrian army and their protectors, the Hezbollah, were at their weakest. And lo and behold, maybe to the surprise of Israel as well, the regime in Syria fell and was destroyed. The Assad regime flew the coop and ran away. I think Bashar Assad is living somewhere with his billions of embezzled dollars. I think he's living in Moscow somewhere. And the situation became, for a while, destabilized until the rebels took over the country. And then these former jihadis put on a kind of show that they're no longer jihadis, and now they're ready to rule the country as a unified country with all its various peoples. But then about a month ago, we started hearing about the wholesale murder of the Alawites. Those are the allies of Bashar al-Assad. He himself was an Alawite, and there's a lot of those were the people that maybe repressed the other minorities living in the country. And so there was payback time from the jihadis against the Alawites. Also, they don't like their religion. But now it became the turn of the Syrian Druze and the Lebanese Druze to be under attack. And a video came out, or an audio, that accused the Druze of making fun of Islam. And this was a pretext in order to attack the Druze. Now, the Druze is a complicated story. We're going to hear much more in a second. The Druze is a complicated story. I myself, in my personal life, have a lot to do with Druze. In Hebron, a lot of the army officers are Druze. What is a Druze? Well, it's an Arabic-speaking peoples who do not define themselves as Arabs or Muslims. They don't define themselves as Arabs, although they're Arabic-speaking. They have a different religion, which is not Christian and it's not Muslim. It's based on Jethro, and it's a kind of secret religion. And they have basically an ideology of being loyal to the country that defends them. They are also a militant type people, the warrior type people. They're proud of their fighting tradition. And now they are under attack in Syria. And the big question is, what should Israel do about it? Oh, one more point. The Druze that live in Israel are mostly loyal to Israel. But there was for a long time Druze that lived in the Golan Heights that also had family in Syria. And therefore, they kept their loyalty at a distance from Israel, although they lived as residents of Israel. But they knew that if they would become totally Israeli, they would therefore endanger their family in Syria. So there was a kind of coldness there. But now there is a strong call to have Israel defend those Syrians for various reasons. We have with us a very special person. I'm very excited to have him with us right now. His name is Mansour Ashkar. He is an ex-Israeli Special Forces Druze. That means that he's not Jewish, Arabic speaking, but he served in the IDF. He is a father trying to make the world a better place. And he's a YouTuber and makes videos, as he says, one video at a time, aspiring film director, born storyteller in pursuit of adventure and the dream to find the perfect D&D party. I think that's a great way to describe a very interesting person who has a great channel. Mansour, thank you so much for joining me today. Shalom and welcome.
Thank you for having me. And yes, I still haven't found the perfect D&D party. I just saw one of the comments here. Someone made a really cute kind of, the symbol of the Druze and the Israeli flag, kind of like this one. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, we've been putting the Seychelles flag for so long because no one have the Druze emoji flag. And I just started a petition not long ago that I'm trying to find someone that can finally add the Druze flag into the emoji bank. I mean, there's people in Seychelles who are getting terrified. They see a picture of the Seychelles flag and a bunch of jihadis driving in Syria going to slaughter the Druze, and they're thinking what's happening here? But yeah, anyway, that just kind of amused me. But thank you so much for inviting me, and you gave a very good explanation about who the Druze are, especially for many people around the world who don't know who the Druze are. We're a very small minority that are pretty much kept to ourselves. Very similar to the Jews in that point. We're just trying to live our life and practice our own faith and be loyal to the ground that we're living in. But lately, it's became very important for the Druze to be known around the world, because as we're speaking right now, there's a genocide attempt. There's an October 7 attempt on the Druze in Syria. Very similar. You're seeing bodies being piled into trucks. I spoke to some of my relatives right now who are living there, asked them what happened to these men. They said they were, they disappeared, most likely executed and somewhere in a ditch right now. As we're speaking right now, I got a message from a Druze sheikh who showed me a video of a Druze holy place in Syria that was just burned down and looted by jihadists, and they made a graffiti outside after they burned the place down. We love you, Muhammad, which is a very ironic way of showing your love to your God by going and destroying, killing holy places for others. But
Well,
yeah,
it's ironic,
I'm
or
sure
it's
we're
not
going to talk
ironic.
about it.
It's
What is that?
ironic. Maybe it's not ironic. That's really their system of belief, which is conquest, and in their mind they have to eradicate people who don't believe that belief system, and to them Arabic speaking others are a threat or a problem, or kufar, or whatever it is. They're non-believers. They're heretics. And so this guy who leads Syria today, his name used to be Julani, right? Now it's something else. He changed his name. What, like he put like beard stuff in his beard, made it nice, and put a
He
nice
had a
tie
PR
on.
guy. He made it. Let's go Zelensky and Che Guevara, kind of combine the two. That's going to be the new image. The Europeans would love it. Americans will fall for it, especially the academia in America. They love Che Guevara. They love let's go for that.
But what's his new name now? Remind me what his name? Ashara.
Ashara.
Right. Ashara. Now this guy, he was an Al-Qaeda jihadi. He made claims that he wants to see the place work together with all its minorities, that he wants to defend the minority. He talked the talk. A lot of people said this guy's a jihadi and a fake. Other people say he just loses control sometimes because of the what do you think? Do you think that this guy is just a guy who wants to get rid of the Druze and he wants to just not see non-believers, heretics destroyed? Or do you think that he's just a dude who has not yet gotten control of a place that has lost control?
Well, first of all, he was also in ISIS, not only Al-Qaeda.
Right.
And a lot of my Syrian, contacts I'm talking right now, including ex-Muslims, they say that, he's fooling the West, he's not fooling us. It's like Al-Qaeda and ISIS had a baby and they brought him to the world, and that's, his new faction. Undoubtedly, the guy's a terrorist. He has the records. He came from a very known, established terrorist organization declared by the US and Europe. Now, the question that I ask myself sometimes is, if he is a religious zealot, then we have nothing to talk about. Sorry. If he's an opportunist who came and saw a chance to come and just jump out of, that was my chance to go through Al-Qaeda, get a life to myself, then jump out of it. Oh, there's a chance now to become political. Then there might be something to talk about because he's not a religious zealot. Regardless of that, the action and the government and the people that he brought into his cabinet are clearly known terrorists. I remember when I was in the service in Israel, I saw a video that shocked me till today. That was one of the first videos that shocked me. And it was a woman that, a typical Arab woman that was wearing the hijab and everything, and she was begging in the street. And there was a bunch of men with beards standing around her. And one of them was the Secretary of Defense of Jolani now, or the deputy in position, and he executed her live in the street as she was begging to go back to her children. So when that's someone that is in your government, I mean, who are you going to try to fool? It's like, it's not fooling anyone. And as we're speaking right now, we know, I just spoke to my relatives in Sweden, and they just told me that
what Sweden is. Tell us what that is.
So in Syria, you have different Druze areas. The biggest area is called Sweda. It's the mountain of the Druze. And that is the strongest area of the Druze as well, where they keep to themselves.
It's a mountain range. It's one mountain. It's a big city. What is it? What is this?
It's a combination of several villages in the area of Sweda that is like a province. It's like a Druze province.
And it's on one mountain, many mountains?
It's on one area of big mountain that have different hills. But it's the area of the Druze, and that's why they're so good at defending it. And it's
called the Druze Mountain, right?
It's a Druze mountain. Yeah,
right.
That is known as to be as a Druze mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been under siege now for several days. And what Jawlani's forces did is they first sent the hordes of the Bedouins to go and charge on them. And the Bedouins there went and tried to plunder and kill, kidnap some of the women. The Druze fought the Bedouins, defeated them. Miraculously, there was no losses to the Druze, and there was several hundred losses for the Bedouins there. But now they started shelling their town, and meanwhile they're seeing tanks coming around, armored vehicles coming around, and the people of Jawlani, not officially by the government, but a lot of the religious people in the government made a fatwa, and they called for the annihilation of the Druze. And you mentioned that before. It was all came after a fake audio. No one can prove that it was right. The Druze are saying it's not. That someone's insulting the prophet, as if this is an excuse to go and start plundering houses, killing.
Muhammad, you mean?
Muhammad, yeah. Muhammad, the warlord. Let's call him the warlord, okay? Let's be honest historically. He didn't prophesize anything. You want to call someone a prophet, at least show me one prophecy you prophesied that came true. If you didn't, you're a false prophet. But anyway, we're not going to go there, or at least, not yet. So someone insulted Muhammad. And then they went and started plundering, killing, butchering, innocent people, students. And
this is a classic. What's it called? Fake flag.
Excuse. Yeah. They were. So here's what the people in Syria.
Hitler used this kind of stuff all the time. False flag. This is, for example, Hitler famously, they killed Germans at a Polish radio station. And they claimed that it was the Poles that killed them, and it started a whole false flag operation in order to start the war in Poland. It's a classic trick. It's like you hurt my feelings actually, and now I'm justified to attack you back.
It's a classic trick, and they've been waiting to do it. And if you see, there's so much sinister planning into it that is coming to surface now. Again, it's not reaching social media. That's why I'm so thankful for
how many Druze live up there at the mountain of Sweda?
I think it's about 400,000 Druze, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, quite.
Did they have any heavy weaponry? Did they have artillery, jets?
Right
tanks?
now in Sweda, there's about 5,000 armed men defending Sweda.
Armed with what?
With AK-47s mostly.
Okay.
Some of them managed to steal from the army. So some of them were soldiers in the Syrian army who defected when Assad was, being cruel to the nation, the civil war. They said we want no part in that, and they left. So they took a lot of weapons with them because they knew what's going to happen. But they don't have any armored vehicles. They maybe have a few APCs that they managed to seize, but nothing more than that.
Okay.
Most of them are. I spoke today actually to one of them. It's not a professional army. This is the first time actually that I'm, revealing this, because I wanted to make a video about it. So this is the first time that I'm talking about this. They're not a professional army. They're not a paid army. Some of them have military experience. Most of them don't. They're teaching each other. They're all working other jobs. People there are making $30 a month. They barely have food. They barely have, ammunition. They're desperate for ammunition. What happened, in Germana, which in the end they succumbed to the attacks because they ran out of ammunition, because they sieged them. Now, what they told me is very, very concerning and sinister. They said that the Muslims in Syria have planned already to go and eliminate all the kuffar. So they went for the Alawites first. It was the best excuse.
Right. Now, I'm not in favor. God forbid, please do not in any way misunderstand me. I have to say this so carefully. But within the rules of the Middle East, the Alawites at the end were part of a whole system that suppressed the Syrian people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that they deserve to be hurt or anything like that. Please do not misunderstand me. But I can understand within the rules of the Middle East of the Arab world that there's there's blood that was spilled in the other direction, and so there's this continuing fight. But what did the Druze have to do with it?
So you're 100%
I mean,
right.
did I say something? Do you think that what I said is sick and wrong?
No, what you said is what I think as well. The Alawites, many of them were not innocent. They were part of the very oppressive regime. But with that said, there's many Alawites. They're just, a child who was just born to a family.
Right.
Or a young man or an old lady.
And we saw videos, just to explain, I'm not going to play these videos, but we saw them go, we saw the jihadists go into these villages of the Alawites, make the people crawl on hands and knees, beat them in the meantime, and then shoot them.
Yeah.
So we saw the worst stuff. I'm sure there's even worse stuff that videos didn't come out about. But the bottom line is that they tortured and destroyed hundreds of Alawites. But what did the Druze have to do with it? Why would the jihadis have a problem with the Druze?
So the Druze are considered in the eyes of the jihadis as kuffar because they're not Muslims. And in Islam, it's a very totalitarian kind of religion. And once you become Muslim, you can't leave. And the Druze, in their eyes, left Islam, so they should be killed. Now, you mentioned something about the Druze of Majd al-Shams and their alliance to Israel while maintaining some alliance to Syria, which
you're talking about in the Golan Heights in the north.
The Golan Heights in Israel,
very north of Israel, and they were like across the border. Those Druze that for a long time seemed like, when I was a kid, we knew that those Druze are standoffish. They're not exactly with us. They're still flying the Syrian flag. They had this relationship.
Yeah. So I spoke actually yesterday, and one of my relatives told me, like, now we don't need to wear that mask anymore. He said, you see, our relatives in Syria many times were actually even pretending to be Muslims to survive. So Muslims don't kill them. So Muslim will come and say, wait, are you Muslim or not? No, I'm Muslim. And they will many times tempt them, okay, give me your daughter. And he would go, sorry, I can't give you my daughter, etc. That's why the Druze kind of moved to Sweden to protect themselves. But they had the biggest question that they were always asking them, are you khaynin? Are you traitors? What do you mean? Are you with Israel or with us? So of course we're not with Israel. We're with you guys. Well, what about your relatives in Israel? Yeah, you see, they're not Israelis. So for the relatives in Israel whose village split in half, they were all the time kind of, doing these fake demonstrations and going around. But still, if you tell them, where would you like to live in Israel and Syria, they'll tell you definitely Israel. And when you look at it, there was never any terrorist attack that came from Majd al-Shams or etc. So they did have this dual loyalty out of fear for their families, but inside they much rather be in Israel. Many Druze in Israel, including myself, were not very happy with them because we came and said, guys, we understand 5 years, 10 years, come on, you've been living here for I don't know how many years now. We're sharing the burden. We're going to the military. We're doing, risking our life to protect you. You should also do that. But they were stuck between the hammer and the angel, whatever you call it.
Anvil, yeah.
Yeah, so that's from the D&D world.
Okay, now, okay. So far we've talked about the situation that the Druze now face vis-a-vis the new government in Syria.
Yes.
We've talked about the attack that has been many different waves. You talked about the Bedouin attack and now a more armed attack with artillery, tanks. And this is something that probably the Druze cannot withstand with their AKs. Okay. Now let's shift gears. The question now is in the hands of Israel. What is Israel going to do? Does Israel take responsibility for the Druze on multiple levels? One, we have loyal Druze citizens living in the country, fighting in our army. They're part of our social, societal mosaic. They're part of our life here. And we have a moral duty to our citizens to protect their brothers and sisters, their family. That's one. Another one is maybe a bigger one, which is Israel has a chance now to send a message to the jihadis. You're not going to be in control. You're not going to threaten people that we are allied with. We are a minority people. We have other minority peoples that we protect. And Israel is willing to be bigger in the region. Okay, Syria is not the same old Syria. We're holding on to the Hermon mountain range. And now we're going to also protect these people. They're under our protectorate. They may not necessarily be Israeli citizens or residents, but they're under our protective arm. We're going to make sure that they're safe. And Israel has done a little bit about that. They have bombed. They did some kind of bomb that
precision airstrikes.
An airstrike that came close to Jolani's, al-Shara's
palace,
former palace of Bashar al-Assad. But a lot of other people, including a lot of my friends, are upset that Israel isn't doing more. And some of my friends, myself included, have always been frustrated that Israel has not done enough to see itself as a big boy in the block with allies that we have to support. And that's true about the Druze, and that's true also about the Kurds, and that's true about the South Lebanese army. And in fact, within our own conversations, we sometimes say, Israel, you've done a pretty poor job at defending our allies, and that you don't have a sense of allies. In fact, my more internal Israel dialogue is, we are such a ghetto people. All we do is think about our little ghetto and defending our little ghetto instead of realizing that God, Allah, has made us big now, and that we are responsible for other people. And all these airplanes and things that we have means that we have to assert security control around this region and protect other minorities that are victims of the same enemies that we have, which is the jihad. So I've said a lot of things. Now you tell me, how do you and your family and the people that you are communicating, and by the way, it's important to know you have become a leading voice on YouTube, and we're talking with Mansour Ashkar, with speaking out the voice of the Druze in the English language. So you've become a leader in that. A lot of people are probably communicating with you and telling you how they're seeing it. So tell me, so now revert back to me what I just said about Israel, how your friends, how the people that you speak with see what Israel's role should be in the defense or not defense of the Druze.
You mentioned something very, very interesting. And I'm a proud Israeli. I'm a very proud Israeli. I see it as the greatest country, at least, you know, I was born in Israel. I haven't lived in many other, but that was the greatest country I've lived in my life. Israel is not behaving well towards its allies. And one of the reasons that you mentioned, Israel needs to start behave like a local power. Look at America. America is revering itself as an empire, as, you know, a very local, modern, you know, powerhouse. And they have
Not
allies.
local, international,
yeah.
And
they have allies, and they defend their allies, and they stand with their allies. Israel should stop playing the defense game. Israel should start playing, we are the owner of this land here. We are a powerhouse in this region, and we're going to make sure that everyone here behaved according to our standards. And that's good, because Israeli standards are very good and moral standards. Now, Israel have a chance now to save a very strong group of allies in Syria, because I said that way, aside from the moral obligation, let's say, that they have toward their Druze brothers in Israel, which stood with them again and again and again, shoulder by shoulder. My grandfather fought in all of the Israeli wars. He was a decorator. He was the first Druze to light the Mesuah, the first non-Jew to light the Mesuah.
Just to explain to people, like a few years ago, the commander of one of the most Israeli of all Israeli brigades is the Golani Brigade. That's like the Israel,
the Marine Corps,
right? But it's like the Golani is like the hardcore, like Israelis, and the commander of that was a Druze officer of the Golan. So that means that the Druze have achieved a level of respect and support here in Israel that's very high. Some of the I train almost once a month in shooting. Some of my best trainers are Druze.
Yeah. One of the Druze that died in Gaza about 5 years ago, and his name was not allowed to be revealed for so many years because he was one of the top most secret units of Israel, was an undercover Druze person who worked with Shabak and Sayeret Matkal, who was very deep in Gaza, and his role was so important that even after his death, his family was not been able to receive, you know, the condolences for his death, because he was so top secret in the job that he was doing. We have Druze in the elite, you know, special forces, in the commanding, in the government, everywhere. We embedded ourselves in the country. But what I'm saying is, every Israeli need to understand, and there's so many Israelis that are supporting actually the Druze. The people that came now to kill the Druze will come tomorrow to kill the Jews.
They came yesterday also.
They came yesterday, yeah. And actually, they're saying that out loud. So the Druze right now are the last line of defense and buffer zone from these radicals in Syria. And if they annihilate the Druze, you're going to have them on the border with Israel.
Right.
And you're going to have them waiting to become...
You're saying that there's a very sensical, technical not even such a moral. It's a defensive rationale. You're saying
100%.
help the Druze. They are your buffer zone. They want to stay there. Arm them, defend them. They are fighters. They'll stay there. They'll push back the bad guys from your borders.
Yeah, I would say even more. What is Syria? Syria doesn't belong to Al-Qaeda. Syria doesn't belong to ISIS. Syria, back in the day, someone divided the lands over here and gave some, they gave some Christians, actually, the area of Syria. The Muslims came, took it from them, killed them, kicked them out. There were some Jews there. They kicked the Jews out of there as well. And now they made it, this Taliban, Al-Qaeda land full of terrorists. Israel shouldn't care about these camel poop, just should go there, take the parts that they need to take to secure their defense. That's what I think as a Druze. Right. As well, strengthen the belt with the allies, the Druze, train the Druze, help them. They protect us, we protect them. You're going to have, for the first time in the history of the Middle East.
Wait. I want to understand. Do you want to see those Druze in Syria become, let's say, residents of Israel? Do you think it should be, or no, it stays Syria, but it's under Israeli protectorate? You're saying arm them, train them, make them into a forward fighting force, which they're naturally, that's what they want to do anyway. Do you think it's important for Israel to assert political sovereignty there, or military sovereignty, or no? Just let the Druze have a autonomy there, their own space. Let's call it Druzestan.
Druzeland. Yeah.
Druzeland, right? What do you think about that?
So I think, I'm thinking out loud now, and I'm not a politician. I'm not a religious, figure in the Druze community, but, I have a brain and I have experience in my life. What I think is, if Israel is to take the area in the Golan Heights that they already took, make it part of Israel, there is Druze villages there. These Druze villages, bring them, make them part of Israel. That's what I think. You're going to get very loyal, very strong, independent citizens who are going to help you in every possible way. The rest of the Druze, I don't think, because we're talking here, what makes Israel unique is its Jewish identity. And I am very pro for that. When I was an officer in the army, when I would sing the Tikva, the hymnon, I would say, Nefesh Yehudi Humiyah, I would sing it as it is because it's a Jewish country. So I don't know if Israel should bring now non-Jewish religions in big numbers into Israel. It's not.
That's why I believe in residency. Residency. I believe in residency. I believe that you are part of our thing, but that doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to shape the character of the country. Like, I very much believe in residency for loyal. They're part of our broader family, but there's a different status. And I for Americans, it's hard to hear, but for you, it's not so hard to hear. Better to be an Israeli resident than under the gun in Syria. Or do the Syrian Druze want an autonomy? Do they want their own, let's call it semi-state there of some kind?
So what I would think is the Druze are close to the border. If Israel takes that, bring them, make them residents of Israel. The Druze that are in Syria, help them create their own belt of Druze land. And I'm telling you, once that happens, you're going to have Christians running there. Every minority is going to run there to be defended by the Druze and the Jews. And then protect them. They'll protect you, you protect them. And you're going to start seeing Israelis going for tourisms and et cetera there. And they're coming here. It's going to be a very good solution.
By the way, one of the other issues with the Druze is that Druze are good builders, and they do a lot of the plumbing, electricity, building, air conditioning, all the stuff that Israel desperately needs. Army stuff. So in many ways, they're also a natural workforce for Israel. And so that's actually, and also the Druze have a holy place in Israel. Jethro's tomb, right? Which I've visited myself. And that's very important to them. And Israelis, of course, would love to visit up there. The only problem is, Mansour Ashkar, the only problem is part of the Israeli psychology, which I'm working on trying to heal, which is what I said before, a certain ghettoization, a certain smallness of thinking, a certain non-Middle East-like attitudes, much more kind of European, small. I just want to survive. I don't want, what Israelis say all the time? They say, I don't want to control any other peoples. And I always say to them, all powers control other peoples. That's just the most natural thing in the world. And you know what? We're going to be blessing to those peoples, and they're going to be happy. But yeah, you're going to have to control other peoples. That's just the way it is. That's just the way. You can't stay in your little ghetto. If God has granted you these jets and this strength, then you have to use it. You have to use it for the good and to defend people. But this part of Israeli psychology, and we've seen it. We saw it very, very embarrassingly with the SLA, with the South Lebanese Army, which after they helped defend the North Israel and the South Lebanon, Israel kind of turned their back on them, and we know about that. We know about that. So that is something in the Israeli psyche that needs to be healed. When I took a tour up north and I met with many Druze, I always tell Druze, tell me what you really think. Just tell me what you really think. Like let's drop. Just tell me what's going on. And they always tell me, you guys are too weak against the jihad. You're too weak against the jihad.
My God.
But you say it to us. Say it to the audience, Mansour. Say, me and you are just talking. We're two guys. I'm just saying, you're a Druze, I'm a Jew. What do you think about Israel? Like, what do you think? What do you think if you would analyze Israel? What's your take on it?
You're talking military wise?
I'm talking vis-a-vis the jihad. Vis-a-vis
Israel is way too weak and doesn't understand the language here. We say that a lot. Israel does not speak Arabic in the Middle East, and you cannot speak here sushi or any other language. You need to speak hummus. It's the Middle East here, and in the Middle East, what counts is power and respect. And Israel have to play that game if they want stability in that area. October 7 came because they did not respect you or feared your power. That's it. That's why it came. October 7, also the later Israeli response that came way too weak, way too humanitarian, gave Hamas the chance to look like heroes. I mean, they're not heroes. They're a bunch of cowards, perverts. That's what they are. And they barely know how to fight. They're just fighting like cowards behind women and children, just coming out, shooting RPG, running down. If they will face the IDF face to face, they will be annihilated in a day. So Israel's response with them have made them also look like heroes because Israel is not speaking the language. I've just, that might be controversial. People might not like hearing it, but I've just been reading about a petition to give the penalty of death to the Nukhba terrorists who came to Israel, murdered, raped women, and killed children. And people started debating in a group that I was just added to. And I came and I said, guys, what kind of a question is that? You need to kill them by hanging. You need to bring these cranes, put them over Gaza, leave them there hanging in the air for weeks for all the people in Gaza to see. That's what happened to anyone who comes to Israel to kill women and children.
That's right.
Make it as clear as possible, as brutal as possible, so they will see. They will be shocked. You need to humiliate the jihadist ideology. You need to crush it. And you need to not humiliate it in your own eyes. It needs to be humiliated in the eyes of their friends. They need to look like fools, like a joke. So when Mustafa comes out and tries to put a V in the air after you completely demolished, his town because they try to fight and hiding hostage in this town, all the Arab nation would look and says, are you stupid? Look what you've done. Dahmar and Tetes, look what have you done. Never mess with the Jews. Why are you trying to kill them? They will wipe you out from the face of this earth because they will stand to defend themselves. Now, Israel does not present that language. There's a famous story when Hamas and the jihadists kidnapped a Druze, teenager. Maybe the Americans don't know that story. So I have a friend from the Shabak, and he shared that story from the Shabak and the Mossad side of things. He called me. We got a call from the Israeli government, Prime Minister office, telling us we have an Israeli hostage. Now notice, not a Druze hostage, Israeli hostage. And they all panicked. That was during the Gilad Shalit kind of time and thinking, oh my God, we're going to end up with another 1,000 terrorists going back and I don't know what. It's going to be terrible. So they start coming, putting maps and preparing, I don't know what, getting ready for an operation. How can we go and rescue him before he disappears for years to come? Suddenly they get a phone call. Okay, guys, stand down. He's back. Now, these guys are serious. They know the Arab world. What do you mean he's back? Hamas doesn't give back their hostages. They don't give it back. That's like the biggest prize they can have. No, he's back. How is he back? What do you mean? Some Druze Shabab went and brought him back. What? There were some guys from a Druze village who went and brought him back. And you know how? They went to the same village, kidnapped people from that village, sent the video to Hamas and the jihad with, these guys standing on the floor and telling them, for every hour that you wait, we're going to send you a body of a hostage that we brought. And then we're going to go and bring more until we finish your entire village. These guys went, Allahu Akbar, Ya Habibi, went and gave back the hostage because they realized they're dealing with people here who understand the mentality and will come and wipe them out if they try to hurt our women and children. And Israelis have been playing this humanitarian. Now, I love that about Israel because Israel is a great country. It is a humanitarian country. It's a country that allows me, as a Druze, to have my freedom of religion, allows my mom to walk in the street, to go and meet with people. My mom is one of the most respected women in a Jewish city. She walks out of the street and so many religious and non-religious Jewish taxi drivers stop. They see her. Khalta, come here, let me drive you, let me help you with the shopping. Don't even take money from her. So we're very lucky to live in a country that appreciates humanitarian values. But in the Middle East, you're not Switzerland. You can't
be humanitarian to the jihad.
You can't.
You can be humanitarian to people who want to receive that love and to live that normal life. But you can't play that game with enemies who want to destroy you.
Yeah.
That our sages, the Jewish sages, say, "He who is merciful to the wicked, in the end becomes wicked to the merciful."
Yeah.
You don't be merciful to the wicked. You have to fight them. You have to fight them and seek to destroy them before they destroy good people. And that's what they want to do.
And bringing it back to Syria, Israel have another chance right now to shape the Middle East the way that she want to see it, which is, let's face it, a safe place that is kind to everyone.
Right.
And if they act strongly against Jawlani and against these guys and tell them, hands off the Druze, hands off the Christians, hands off every minority, that's it. We're going to hold you to our standard. You're not going to hurt anyone there. We allow you. Jawlani need to remember that the reason Israel allowed him to take power, when I say allow him, because Israel can take it down any second, is because Assad was terrible, and then came this guy, and he took it over, and we thought, you know what, let's see. Maybe he's going to make things better. But if he's not making things better, Israel should go and just kick the camel poop out of all of them and just put them in place. And I think that's going to be a win-win for Israel, for the Druze, for everyone, because these guys are literally evil. They are evil. Anyone who don't understand that, if you're a college student somewhere in Yale and you completely lost your mind, you don't know who's who and who's what, jihad, radical jihad is evil, guys.
Right.
They're terrible. They're killing people. They're oppressing. They have modern-day slavery there. They're marrying young daughters. They're just going around and killing people in the most humiliating way. There's videos right now of Druze that are forced to make sounds of sheep and cows probably before they were killed. Now, I was saying something sinister that happened. That came from my Syrian friends. They said, and they're afraid of this, because they said now they're sieging on us, and they've learned a lesson from what happened with the Alawites, because they, airstreamed it and live streamed it to the world like Hamas did, and it backfired on them. So now they have an official command going around the ranks: don't film anything. Do any wicked deed under the sun, just don't film it. So there is things. That's why you're not seeing a lot of videos coming out of Syria anymore. It's not because they're nice. They just stopped airing it because it's actually shooting the back. That shot Hamas back in in the leg very badly. If they would have probably noted now, they would probably said maybe we should have not done it. But because they did it, at least it gave some contra to the justification.
Well, they do it. They do have a tactical reason to shoot these videos.
But in the end of the day, it's still...
wait, Mansour. Things that for me and you are obvious are not obvious for some people in the audience. People don't understand why Hamas would shoot this footage. They don't understand. It's an old tactic. You have to spread fear. When they're inhumane, it's not just because they're just barbarian. There's a thinking behind it. The more barbaric you seem, the more fear you sow on other people. Terrorism is the broadcasting of fear. They want you to be terrorized. They want you to be filled with terror inside your heart. They're spreading terror on purpose. Okay, they want you to be afraid. They want you to be broken emotionally. They want that. That's part of their tactics.
But to humiliate, not only fear, it's a humiliation and fear. It's the lowest form of fear. They want to humiliate you to the lowest way and then kill you. And that will shake everyone and make them shiver. It's a very, very wicked thing, but it comes with a dehumanization of the other. And that's something that Islam, has been doing very much, and it's very, very wrong. And they should address it. When you look at the Nukhba guys who came to Israel and killed, plundered, raped, killed babies.
By the way, you mentioned Nukhba previously. You said that there's now a discussion about death penalty. Very important. I was with Minister Ben-Gvir in America, and one of the main things he talked about is how important it is to institute the death penalty here in Israel, so that we never have to give back terrorists. So there's no such a thing, so that they know how seriously we mean business, and that we will not give you a good life in our prisons. It's not going to happen. If you murdered our children, you're going to die if we catch you alive.
Yeah. And you need to understand, when you see this 27 years old Nukhba guy, that means that 22 years back, he was 5 years old. He was this, Gazan innocent kid that you're seeing. How do you think did he become from an innocent kid who just wanted to play football to a guy that really have a glee in his eyes when he's going murdering women and children? It's because they've been dehumanizing the other side so badly, the Jews. And that's what they're doing in Syria now. They're dehumanizing the Druze. They're calling them pigs. They're calling them animals. They're dehumanizing everyone that is not like them. And that gives them that justification to go and murder and kill in the most horrific way. And part of their strategy, like we said, is to humiliate and spread fear among everyone around the world.
Let's not get too far into it, just because I think, Mansour, you and I need to be spreading also the strength and the light, and Israel has got to identify these trends, and really, this is the moment to step up. October 7th is an awakening, hopefully. For people like myself, October 7th was not an awakening. Nothing changed in my consciousness. It was just a proof of things that we've been saying for years. But October 7th, for many, it was an awakening. And I think that the Druze story is an opportunity right now for Israel. It's an opportunity for Israel to be bigger, to defend its allies, to be smart, to understand who the enemy is and who the friends are, and to empower the Druze to have, after hundreds of years of living in danger and fear, to have a decent life, decent opportunity to defend themselves, to be our allies, and to, in a sense, make Israel stronger and bigger, and make themselves stronger and bigger, and also spread the ideas of, you said, of life and liberty to the region, which is so desperate. You know, I want to tell you that I'm not sure that I felt such disgust in a long time since when those images came out from the Syrian, the Assad prisons. You know, when they opened it up to see the vile, the vile suppression and destruction of life in the most, you know, as you said, to dehumanize, debase, torture, and just the things that they would do to people who just didn't agree with their policies. This is the Middle East deserve better. The children of Abraham deserve better. The people that want to follow our living God deserve better. This region deserves better. And I think that pushing back right now on jihadism, empowering the Druze, is the way to go. And let's hope that our prime minister,
allies. Yeah, you know, there's not many. The Jews don't have many allies in the Middle East.
That's right.
And now one of your strongest allies in the Middle East is literally under the threat of extinction. They will not stand for long.
Right.
They're 5,000 strong with barely any weapons, and there's about 100,000, if not even more, of these jihadists coming in them with tanks and heavy artillery. They control their internet. They control the supply, the electricity. They can. It's gonna, you know, the Druze know the terrain, so they're gonna give them a fight as much as they can.
Sure.
But if they're left alone, they will perish.
Right.
And that's why I feel here the obligation to remind everyone, it's not only the moral thing to do, but it's also your ally, and you need that ally and strengthen. Right. I think Israel should give them weapons, should go and give them air coverage. Israel should send Israeli Druze officers. You know what? Send me and my friends. We'll go there. We'll train them.
Right.
Special forces. We'll train these guys. I was talking to them today, asked them, how do they communicate? You know, they don't have radio. They communicate in WhatsApp.
Right.
You know, they're just farmers and normal people, business owners.
Is there a direct land bridge between Sweda and Israel, or is there is it a direct thing, or do we have to overcome some kind of land barrier?
No, so there is some dividing part of the land that is, you know, have Muslims living in it, and then there's Sweda. Otherwise, things would have been easier.
Right.
So, you know, there's a Druze villages right by the water, and then there's a Muslim Bedouin. That's the Bedouin land, which, by the way, these are the Bedouins that Israel built a hospital for them back in the days when that was a famous, you know, when Israel was treating Syrians out of the, you know, when Assad was killing them. And now the Druze thought that these Bedouins were their allies, by the way. And now they were the first one to turn on them and attack them from within. They literally went and attacked them from within. The Druze right now who are going to fight are leaving one man in the house that is not going outside to fight, because while they were out, they came and started kidnapping their women. So now there's one guy staying, usually the younger boy, in the house. He will stay in the house, and if you have enough money, they'll buy a weapon. If not, he'll stand there with a machete. And then his brothers are going outside fighting because that Bedouin belt, you know, is there, and you can't trust them. They literally turn their back on the Druze.
Right.
And, you know, it's terrible. If we don't stand beside them, we're gonna witness them being slaughtered and massacred. Because the only genocide happening in the Middle East, ladies and gentlemen, is happening under Islam. The only genocide. Don't believe all the lies. It's not happening under the Jews, happening under Islam, and they're trying to genocide anything in their way, but somehow they managed to buy your Western media, and they're not reporting it. How many people are reporting about the Druze right now? I haven't seen anything.
Nobody cares, and nobody cares also about all the Yemenis that are starving to death under the Houthis. People use the so-called facts in order to strike at the Jews, but to care for the Druze or the Yemenites or many other peoples in this region, nobody cares. Nobody cares. But as you saw in the Syrian conflict, nobody cares that 500,000 Syrians were being butchered by the Assad regime. Nobody cares. In any case, I want to say like this: it's a dark moment, and we could witness, as you said, the annihilation of the Druze community in Syria, or we could see Israel standing up for its allies, pushing back on jihadists, and not letting another October 7th happen to our allies. And so therefore, I hope, as they say in America, that this is going to be our finest hour. Okay. And that's what I'm hoping for. And I'm praying for that. And I'm praying for that for the sake of Israel, as much as I'm praying for that for the sake of the Druze community. Mansour Ashkar, you have a powerful YouTube channel. I see by the comments, a lot of people know what you're doing. You got to keep pushing out that voice right now and keep talking about it so that people can hear it. You're on the free side of the world, and so you're able to get the messages out. The videos and the internet out of Syria are limited, and so you're out there. And I want to thank you so much for joining us and talking about these things. And you're always welcome to come back again soon.
Thank you, sir.
All right. God bless you. Mansour Ashkar, thank you so much for joining us. And that was a very important discussion. Let's pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Let's pray for the peace of Sweden. Let's see those people be victorious against jihadism with the help of God. All right, folks, we've been on live for 3.5 hours. It's been a lot of fun, and we could keep going. Should we keep going for a little bit longer? First, if I could ask Yo to please put up some of the super chats that have been posted in the last little bit. I want to read those comments. If we could do that, that would be great. So if we could get those super chats up. Okay. So PC writes, I just read an Israeli family were kicked out of a restaurant in Italy who said no Zionists here. I didn't read that story yet. If that's true, then the Italians need to do a little bit of teshuva, of repentance. You kicked us out of our land 2,000 years ago. You shouldn't be kicking us out of restaurants in Italy. But okay. By the way, Zionist is not a dirty word. It's the most beautiful word in the world. It refers to Jerusalem, which is Zion. There's nothing more beautiful than the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. Please post that up for a second. I want to see that. Daniel writes, you don't need to be overly violent. Just need to make sure they lose land. Muslims can't consider anything a win if they lose land. That's exactly right. And so that's a classic understanding of the Islamic mindset that if they lose land, they really feel that they've lost. Are there any other Shauna says, do you think that this new generation is more prepared to be aggressive? I'm glad Mansour is thinking like Braveheart. Mansour is thinking like a Middle Easterner, and that's the way it works around here. Without that, it's not going to work. So very much important. I think that our generation in Israel, our young generation, is actually a fighting generation. We didn't think they were. We thought that they were the TikTok generation, but they turned out to be also great fighters, and we're so proud of them. Enora writes, super sticker. Thank you very much for your support. I don't even recognize what that coinage is. And Kay Osborne, I don't know what is that? What's 60 what? I don't know what that is. But anyway, thank you very much for your support. Kay Osborne writes, hope to see you, Ari and Jeremy, in Dallas next month. Best to you and Malka. And that's right. So actually, let me take the second to say a few things that there's ways to connect with us. One is join me in Dallas in June 9th, 10th, 11th at the Israel Guys Conference, events.theisraelguys.com. So you're definitely welcome to that. Don't forget that there's an election. If you're Jewish and you're living in America, there's an election right now that you can make a big impact on, Israel365action.com. Also, there's great ways to support this show and what we do here. First and foremost is to subscribe. Yishai Fleischer TV. It's so simple. Yishai Fleischer TV. Is that hard? Should I make a little Yishai Fleischer TV? There you go. Boom. That's what it looks like right there. You see it? Yishai Fleischer TV. You see that? You see that? You see this? You see this? Yishai Fleischer TV. So please subscribe, especially right now. Or if you're on other channels, that's on YouTube. But if you're on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, then please subscribe and be part of what we're doing. And another way that you could support is that you can buy me a coffee. It's just that simple. buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. That's right. Buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. A great way to support the show and a great way for me to be more caffeinated, because that's just exactly what I need. More caffeine. I need more spiritual caffeine. Lord, give me more spiritual caffeine direct from you. Thank you, Lord. Buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. PC says, God bless you and all of Israel. Amen. And finally, but when I say finally, I never mean it, so don't worry about it. Joey says, hopefully Bibi listens and lets the division move in, the army divisions move in to protect our families. I believe that deserves an amen. Buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. And then this is a very important website, fightforisrael.org, fightforisrael.org, where we beautify the land and teach Torah to the nations and broadcast to the world and take holy places and beautify them and go out to places around the world and speak, and all of the various, and we lobby for the biblical highway and teach about the biblical highway. We have so many projects. So please support us at fightforisrael.org, fightforisrael.org. Become a fighter for Israel and a spiritual fighter as well, a person who prays for Israel and a person who prays also that Israel is in your heart, is in our heart, and that God of Israel is closer to us. That's another way to do it. Finally, if you want to add more, tax me more in my life, then you can write me an email, yishai@yishaifleischer.com. The only reason you tax me is because I care about those emails and I appreciate them. And I want to hear from you. But if you're going to do that, then, send me a picture of your flag of Israel. Send me something that shows your support for this good land. I just want to see if I have something in my pocket. I want to show you something. Check this out. A friend of mine gave this to me today. You're seeing this backwards, but it says, relax. It says, Abba Todah. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father in heaven. That's what it says. Abba Todah. Abba Todah for the October 7th massacre, because it's giving us a chance to stand up. Thank you for all of our dear brothers and sisters who have fallen, because we remember their memories and they give us strength. Thank you for giving us a chance to rescue and liberate our hostages. And so many of us are hostages of the jihad and of also the lies of the jihad. Thank you, God, for those opportunities. And we pray for hostages and we pray to fight. We pray for the strength of Israel. We pray for Jerusalem. Do you have a picture of Jerusalem in your home? Have you decided that you drink wine only from the land of Israel, at least Friday night, only wine from the land of Israel? Have you taken a step? If you're Jewish, have you purchased a plot of land here or an apartment in the land of Israel? If you're non-Jewish, have you booked your ticket on El Al to come here? Have you gotten your books from Art Scroll to learn more Torah, or some of the other books, like, for example, Chabad.org and many of the other places? If you're Jewish, have you ever considered serving in the army or volunteering in the army with Sarel, or maybe going to Nefesh B'Nefesh and making Aliyah? Have you made any of these thoughts to take one step closer to the land of Israel? One way to really support the land of Israel is to continue to be part of our programming, because we're pushing it out all the time. And our dedication, we have a new plan to make a long mega shows on Sunday nights out of the land of Israel. And today is indeed such a mega show. And we have a mega amount of people from all over the world that are with us. Let's just do let's do like 2 minutes, or Elazar, let's do 2 minutes of a few places from around the world that people are sending their hello from. And with that, we will end our show and our broadcast here from the good land, from the land of Israel. Let's see if there's any. So let's see if we could get any folks that want to say hello out of the thousands of comments. Good morning from a Druze in Australia. Good. I hope you enjoyed that effort to get the story of the Druze out more. Today's thank you for joining us. Is Israeli welcome Kurdistan. You see that? See how many allies we have in this region? We have so many allies. All we have to do is support them and show leadership. Hello from Dallas. Okay, Dallas, good. And I'm going to be in Dallas soon. A shout out from Germany. Keep going. I salute you, and I salute you right back. Shalom from India, says Nidhish Kumar, and from Atlanta, Georgia. And from I stand with Israel as an Iranian. You see how many allies Israel actually has? And if you listen to the news, you think that we're all hated. There's only one narrative. So many people around the world that want to send blessings, including in our region. They want us to be the liberation nation. Liberation nation. They want us to help free them from oppression, free them from jihad. They're just looking to Israel to step it up. Elsa says, greetings from Brussels, Belgium, another stronghold of the jihad. We have a shalom from Seattle. Shalom. We have a shalom from York, England, and blessings. And indeed, Rotterdam, the Netherlands, and so many other places. I think that's enough. But I just want to say hi to everybody around the world that is sending us blessings. I want to thank the crew that's with me, including all my guests, Tully and Malka and Jake. And who else? Did we have anybody else in the beginning there? Gosh, we had so many guests today. And I want to thank Yo and Elazar for being a part of the production staff here and making it happen. I want to thank the technology that lets us broadcast live, including our good channel here at YouTube and the other channels. And I want to thank God Almighty for the opportunity to broadcast from the land of Israel, the land of blessings. Okay, so I think we've given you a lot of ways to support and be part of it, because we got to be part of the fight. And don't underestimate your strength. As the Lubavitch Rebbe says, find the place that you can do something that only you can do, and do that. And there are conversations to be had. There are flags to be put up. There are posts to be put up. There's something that you could buy from the land of Israel. There's steps that we can take. Let's make a commitment right now to take those steps. God bless you, folks, wherever you are. Lots of love and lots of blessings from the land of blessings. The Shikot, as we say, kisses and shalom. I salute you and salute your strength in the fight for Israel and the connection to the God of Israel. Shalom.